but we just seem to see them there every single game, mini man. I think these guys are going to be a real thorn in the side of any of the teams landing at Grimgate, and I think we can expect to see them completely dominating it in some of these games.
Yeah, it's absolutely ideal for these guys because they can take advantage of all the great things that Grimgate has to offer without actually 50-50 in that chest, without actually landing there. So they kind of get the best of both worlds. Sometimes when they do get that Grimgate coin and the shotgun, they seem to pop off really more often than not, right? We see them on in the end game on height sometimes as well. So really excited to see what those guys can do today.
Yeah, the next thing I really wanted to talk about, even though we touched on it already, was just Rookie of the Season chat. I mean, it is mind-blowing to me that so many people think a guy who's never played in the FNCS Grand Finals before is just going to win his first one. And even though I don't think that's going to happen, I do think I really wanted to talk about, even though we touched on it already, was just Rookie of the Season chat. I mean, least, right? Within the last 2 years, I think the best placement we've seen was from Pixie and Della, who placed 5th in Chapter 4. I think Chap will place better than 5th this weekend, and so we'll see one of the best performances we've seen in a long, long time.
I need to ask about number 3, 11. This is slightly awkward because it says Camille's put setting Camille is actually winning this week. Explain yourself.
Yeah, so I do think they're most likely to win, but I will say shout out to my guy Reese Hub, right? Reese Hub did do some digging, and he discovered that in every single chapter of competitive Fortnite since Chapter 2, Camille has had a poor placement in Season 1 and then gone on to come 5th in the next season. And if we look at Chapter 5, Major 1, they didn't have the best placement. And so if Reese Hub's, correct with what he's dug up here, they should, in theory, place 5th. I hope he's wrong in that. But yeah, big ups to Reese Hub. I thought that was really interesting that, yeah, it seems to be a very common pattern. Literally since Chapter 2, bad placement, then 5th the next season at the start of every single chapter.
I'm intrigued about this duo, right? Because this seems to be their meta to succeed. We have a lot more sort of surge base. We have a little bit less fighting, I suppose, to last season. I'm looking back and thinking back to Chapter 4, Season 2, and I think that was quite a W key heavy season, right? Remember we had those slurp juices, we had those kinetic blades. It was very much that sort of same vibe as last season this time. So I think this could play in their favor. I think that curse is going to be broken today, and I do think they'll do well. I know I didn't put them at first, but I do think they'll do well.
100%. Well, look, let's go into the next thing, right? I highlighted Surge Towers there. Let's talk about it. It's been the meta this season. Surge Towers are so prominent. And so I thought, Minnie, what's the actual best Surge Tower? We see everybody basing up everywhere all over the map. There's always so many. And so I thought it'd be, perfect for us to go look at the stats. Shout out to Progeny Analytics. We looked at the stats. Which Surge Tower accumulates the most damage in the first 14 minutes of the game, right? And we got an answer. Let's look at all the bases. We got an answer. There is one in particular that does more damage than the rest, and it is the one at Fencing Fields. 1,600 damage it dealt during the semi-finals in EU in the first 14 minutes. That base accumulated the most damage, and I think we'll probably see the same again this weekend, right? That base is just so good because all those players in the south rotating through. It's easy pickings. Tayson and Venom will be very happy to see that stat because obviously that's a base that they typically are using. But yeah, I think we'll see that base be phenomenal.
I'm kind of intrigued about that as well because of course Tayson and Venom were landing on that south side of Fencing Fields. They seem to get so much surge from there, right? Tayson was in that base doing so much damage more often than not. Now they're landing in a different area in that POI. Are they going to be the team that's going to be basing up on top of that? I'm not too sure. Do you think they're going to be up there?
I mean, it'll be interesting. We'll see, right? But you mentioned them being contested, and shout out to my guy Shakespeare. To be con or not to be con? That is the question. And I think when you look at the way Major 1 went, it was to be con, right? Everybody wanted to be con because we saw so many teams doing so much better while being contested. Typically, Frankie, that's just not how Fortnite competitors been, right? It's always been, we want to be uncon. That's the best way to have success. In Major 1, 3 of the top 5 teams were contested. Teams were contested doing phenomenally. However, this season, I don't think will be the case. I don't think we'll see teams who are contested doing as well as they did last season. But again, it will still just be the question to be con or not to be con. What will it be? Who will be successful? We'll see.
Who is the best team at fighting off spawn, would you say right now, Mini Money?
It's tough. It is tough because I feel like we haven't got that one team that's just absolutely dominating their drop spot. It's tough to say one name. I'm thinking Mustache Malibuka. They haven't had the best time, but when they do seem to be on their game, they seem to be doing very well.
Team at fighting off spawn, would you say right now? Team at fighting off spawn, would you say right now, Mini Money?
Okay.
that seem to be just dominating their drops, which makes it really, really interesting. And this whole Grands is made really interesting because of that.
Levin, are you surprised we're not seeing more Grim Reapers, aka the Trip Prodoxy style where you're dropping outside that place everyone wants to be and then creeping up and taking the pickings?
I mean, yeah, I think they would have inspired a bunch of teams, you know, all over the world when it comes to FNCS. I think we'll see a lot more people doing it as the games progress. And with just how strong, you know, the Grimgate loot is, I think we'll see more teams try it progressively through the 12 games. It's a lot of games, Frankie. You know, you might get to game 10 and think, well, we're a bit low down in the leaderboard. Let's try to get our way up. What's the best way to do that? Let's try and win Grimgate. Yeah, there'll be a couple of teams trying to reap through Grim, for sure.
Well, I'm so excited to be able to say that we are ready for our first game of the Major 2 Grand Finals. And I can't think of two better voices to take us through all the action than Jacob and Dakota.
Thank you so much. Look, we've been through the qualifiers, we've been through the semi-finals, and now, Jacob, the moment has arrived for the EU FNCS Grand Finals. I'm excited. There's so many potential champions competing here today, and I truly have no idea who's going to take it.
Yeah, it's really, really kind of awesome that we talked about 9 different duos throughout the start of this broadcast that we think has a good chance to take home the Axe of Champions after this weekend. And even though we've only mentioned 9, I know there's probably about 5, 6, 7, 8 more waiting in the rings just to have their names shouted out and earn the respect after the 6 games on the day today.
Yeah, and I mean, there's even potential records to...
Ou quoi, bah solo clutch. Ouais, Fortnite, vas-y, ils sont en retard.
On s'était dit que c'était mieux de toute façon d'avoir leur batte.
Sans c'est quoi d'être marqué parce qu'il est mort.
Ah, comment il est pas qual? Je pensais qu'il était qual. Il casse, j'étais pas ok. Tac.
Il y a, en plus, il y a 2 mains aussi, non?
Ah, mais Pink, je pense qu'il stream pas. Genre, il stream, je sais pas.
Ouais,
Pink,
il a que 1,6k spec. Comment ça?
Il a lancé peut-être.
I've won the...
Yo la team, aujourd'hui je fais du tri en vendant mes affaires sur Vinted. Vous décidez. Je vends cette veste ou ce cardigan. Ok Chad, mais on le met à combien? Sûr? Allez ça part. Alors toi aussi, gagne de l'argent en vendant tes vêtements. Mais pas que. Télécharge Vinted.
Their side of the map, Mount an almost triple, an almost quad contested drop that we've seen throughout the qualifiers up to this point. We're still seeing 3 teams directly there, a couple more on the outskirts. So for Queasy and Thomas, a lot of the struggles that they've had from the qualifiers to the semifinals, they need to be able to tighten up here. They need to be able to tighten up this weekend if they want to take home the Axe of Champion, which would be Thomas HD's first.
I mean, great way of starting as well with that quick elim. Neither Queasy or Thomas have ever placed outside the top 10 in the second FNCS of the year, so if they can maintain that statistic, we should see them pull off quite a performance here today. CZB Nathan over at Grand Glacier, another duo contesting them, but so far no eliminations on the board.
And CZB and Nathan were a team that you're so hyped up throughout all this process, you know, consistency out of this world. Unfortunately, just unable to really get that win through the 10 matches of the win and you're in situation, which happened on Friday and Saturday of the semifinals. But you know how good they can be in a consistency style format. If they can channel all that here in this weekend, we could definitely see them at the top of the list to end the day.
Scrap and Skrill now maintaining the higher position here at the Grand Glacier, so they do have the advantage in terms of vision and potential opportunities to take some shots at CZB and his duo when they start rotating. But you can see, even though they want to maintain this position, they're still making use of their time by farming up, getting those materials and everything they need to continue on to the late game.
I've seen a lot of like slow action right out of the gates. It wasn't until maybe zone 5, the most common and consistent zone, where Storm Surge would turn on, activate, and really cause a lot of carnage around the lobby. Sometimes in some of those lobbies it was earlier in zone 4, and that's why you see Nons, you see Cringe, they're trying to go after their opponents, get the early damage, especially since they already have the first of these 2 eliminations, so it's just about sealing the deal, finishing the job as he takes down Twin Cringe.
Another great way to start it, but be careful.
engagements like these that could take much longer. The build fight has already broken out. And the pursuit is what's going to continue here unless... Yeah, it actually looks like it might just be a full-on disengagement here. Dexy is not going to be pursuing them, as they were the ones that were kind of boxed up in that build fight.
Yeah, you're saying a lot of these early game disengages coming out. They're just getting a couple shots for Storm Surge, and they want to make sure that they play the full game out and not bite out more than they could chew at any moment. Marco, Asa, they just separate their opponent. They already had their first elimination. That looks like Vocal and Vortexers are down and out of this game.
Another box fight here on the edge of the underworld. It's going to be Turtle and Chiefs up against Trash and his duo partner. But you can see from a lot of these engagements we see, especially in game 1 of grand finals, these duos don't want to get eliminated, but they also want to have enough damage to set themselves up for that mid game. So a lot of the time they'll get into these box fights or potential kind of back and forths, taking shots at each other, but not fully committing to anything.
Yeah, just join back on over to Pleasant Park. You got to imagine Goba and Kilba heard this fight from far away, and they're just trying to disrupt it. Do what they can to get some damage, but I think it might have taken them just a little bit too long to move on over in this direction, so they're not going to get the same advantage on this fight in which they wanted when they kind of started and moved over in this direction, and that's why you see them disengaging. Instead of making those big risks, starting a box fight early on the game, especially when their loadout isn't even that good. So I like this decision coming out of them, just to kind of peek in the direction, get information, then move on with the rest of the game.
Yeah, that was a duo that actually originally was dropping at the Underworld, so not sure if either they rotated out instantly or switched up their drop spot. But Trippin for Doxy, talked about them earlier on. Well, 11 and Mini did. They've been consistently third-partying Grim Gate after looting up their drop spot. And it looks like if we switch back over, the engagement has not concluded yet. And it looks like it's not going to conclude anytime soon.
Yeah, it's just one of those situations where the fight is just so prolonged, it's almost not even worth it to engage in one another at this point, and that's why you see teams taking different positions around Grim Gates. But meanwhile, Malibu and Mustache making the heads-up play, boxing around where the medallion will spawn, but they just have to be careful, because when the boss actually does spawn exactly that, it terrorizes and breaks some of the builds, make it easier for you to get shot. But Malibu and Mustache, they kind of have their eyes on the prize, no real distractions coming their way, so this should be an easy loot gather.
Careful though, as Trip now, from comfortable to eliminated, has gone down, and it looks like it was a full-on elimination, no knock, so Prodoxy as well was eliminated previously. Both players now out of game 1.
Yeah, just really unfortunate circumstances, just trying to disengage, trying to stay locked. Do what works and got you to this point, because that Prodoxy and Trip they were just the ones landing around Green Gates and taking advantage of all the opportunity that was around there with the contested drop. You can see just kind of getting caught off guard, not necessarily knowing it's a full duo, a solo, thinking it's much easier than it is, and just overstepping your boundaries, just one too many steps there in that fight.
Teeny making use of that water-bending mythic. You can see on this forecast tower, just looking to see if he can get some shots on any of the other duos or players rotating. There's only 2 on the minimap that you can see, so it's almost like the back and forth between them at this point, both with the water-bending mythic. Trying to avoid getting tagged while doing as much damage as you can.
Wow, this is a big moment right here. Forecast towers. We talked about how good this team is. Probably 5th on multiple lists to get in that top placing here. And with the forecast tower, they can get off to a hot start in this game. Possibly turn this into a top 5 placing and get themselves on a roll. And this is why we keep jumping around the action all around the map. Snazy, Podesai contesting over towards Fencing Field. Tayson, Veno on the other side. And Tayson, even though he's able to gather a lot of loot during this drop, he doesn't want to give any free loot over to anybody else.
Why would you? Especially if you're Tayson and Veno. Basically having the north side of Fencing Fields uncontested throughout the day. But it doesn't hurt to take those shots at the opposing duos here, but you can see always maximizing their efficiency, whether it's looking for tags, farming up, or even finishing up your loot path. Camiseti, Levin's pick for our Major 2 champs this year. They do also have an uncontested drop spot, so they can play for that consistency like we love to see them do.
Already, you can kind of see the zone, I wouldn't say fully pulling in their favor, but they know it is moving a little bit towards the south. They got to imagine teams are coming in their direction, and this is the decision. They're going to split up just a little bit, try to cover more ground, get a couple more loot that they want for their loadout, and maybe some shots from Storm Surge before they figure out what's next. But from smooth sailing on one side of the map, Takata, not so smooth on the other. Underworld, we saw how contested it was to start the day off, and already this is no surprise to me what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, you can see how it's affected Marius and Sandguild. Both players being low on HP, and it not being full just shows you something. They do have that legendary banana they can use to recuperate their HP, but it's especially difficult even to take an engagement with this amount of HP, let alone just stay up and loot, so I'm curious to see how they're gonna come back from this situation.
Pink et Vico, je sais pas s'ils sont
morts.
Bah,
Two titans of the game already battling out what looks like for a closed bunker. Thomas and Queasy, Reason and Vidal on the other side. I'm just trying to think who has control of the actual bunker, but that's almost a moot point because you cannot go down there without risking getting trapped down there from any one of these teams, not the one that you're just fighting. But you see in the minimap, it is littered all around with players looking in this direction to try to get their own Storm Surge.
Like, I saw a lot of doubters for Thomas HD and Queasy based on their performance throughout the season, also being contested by another two duos by, well, in Mount Olympus. I don't know, Jacob. I've got faith in this duo. Historical titans of EU competitive. And you know how they perform. When it's grand finals, it's time to show what you're made of. But Queasy has been cracked. Thomas HD now dropped to 21 shield. Danger for both duos.
That team, that secondary team or third or fourth, whatever you want to call it in the minimap, those are the ones looking in that direction, causing a lot of chaos and kind of left Queasy open, susceptible to a lot of those shots, and that's where you see Reason taking that opportunity, move down into the bunker, take what they were actually fighting for. And you notice Queasy and Thomas, instead of waiting, they're just trying to continue on with the rest of their game. They know they're not going to get a lot of loot staying for that bunker, so they have to look for it elsewhere.
Back to Tace and Benel, still fencing fields. As now I'm looking at the surrounding area, what it's looking like in terms of duos, even surge bases, as this is a popular location to build some up. It does depend on how the zone ends up closing. You can see even in the feed, Marius has gone down.
You can kind of see this is one of those situations that I think might benefit Veno and Tayson just a little bit. The zone moving in this direction. They don't have to go on the hunt for Surge. There is a team nearby, and eventually, if they pick that right spot, you were talking about those Surge towers, there'll be so many more other teams moving on in this direction. As we look on board, Yanis Flixie, top 5, or I should say top 16 in that last major. You might be looking at them to get top 5. You're seeing the Wings of Icarus coming out. Something that you don't see very often, but you're seeing some teams begin to utilize it more and more and more, being able to cancel bounce. You cover so much distance. And Takata, this is just without the Flowberry and the Flowberry Fizz effect, because if you combine those two, you cover even more distance to try to get towards the zone. So even though there's not a ton of mobility in this season, sometimes it just takes a little bit of thinking outside of the box.
Right, the Flowberry meta. It's almost a must-have throughout this season. Nice little shot from Yanis to the tree. You can see how crucial it can be to have good aim with these DMRs, with the amount of damage they can do, and the potential it has for getting those tags in the mid-game.
And this is something I think Yanis and Flixie have to do. Instead of getting contested like Sky and Scroll that they did drop in semifinals, they're uncontested. They're not going to get the same damage numbers to start the game off like they have almost all of last weekend. So them, just like many other teams, are going to have to kind of set up in one of these spots with a Surge Tower or not, maybe even split up to try to cover more ground and get your Surge that way. Comeback and Blaha, you see them just trying to continue to move forward from one spot to the next. They get themselves a spot just inside of the zone, but you can notice that they're still above the mountaintop, trying to give them as much elevation and as much line of sight as possible.
Still 80 players up as well. It's a stacked lobby. Storm Surge will be taking here, but you can see as soon as Rift Island spawns, and Alexado ready to capitalize on that, capture the flag, and now put themselves in a position to not only get tags, but also have an open rotate for further zones.
For me, the Rift Island moving all the way south in this direction is at least a hint. It's a little bit of an indicator of where the next couple of zones are going to go, depending on where this next fourth zone closes. It usually does move away from Rift Island. So you see teams like Andalex and Sato, Cammy and Seti just on the right that they are positioned close by. They start to think, they start to try to be proactive, and you got to think, where are you going to start to rotate from next? Because you got to do it a little bit sooner than later, because all those teams moving in from the north will start to crowd that area.
You can see here, edge of zone. How many duos are kind of stacked up, both in and out, as now Storm Surge threshold appears on the screen for these players, letting them know how much more damage they might have to do, or if they're safe for the meantime. Teeny, even though he is safe, you can never have enough Storm Surge, so we'll continue looking for those shots.
C'est dommage, ils sont en zone. Je peux qu'ils sont bien niveau Storm.
Trying to see
rotated
all the way towards the south. Again, you're seeing the wings of Icarus come out. And for a team like Queasy and Thomas, this has been adaptation on the fly. You know as well as I do, throughout the entire qualification process, semifinals or not, they have taken a long time to rotate out of zone. And it costed them dearly as soon as they got in towards zone. So I like picking up the wings, take less time while you are in zone, and then finally reach it. You could swap those out at a moment's notice for a much better position on the map.
I'm looking here at Benno and Tayson, and they're only 49 above, but to be fair, if you look at the amount of duos surrounding them, there should be options here.
Ça va être compliqué.
For tags,
Ils savent très bien.
getting up close and personal, yeah, to this engagement
Faut
that's
gratter
going
des
on in
dégâts
front of
dessus.
them. Even a potential third party that could come through here, as now they're going to try and crouch up and be as sneaky as possible, see if they can catch someone off guard.
Yeah, not too surprising that they are low on Surge, though. Zone coming this direction. They landed at Fencing Fields. I'm not sure if they even left the POI almost all game long, but as the zones do continue to close, you see a lot of teams getting closer and closer together. It's just a little bit more of a risky situation for Tayson and Venno to try to get the damage, but two of the best fighters in all of the region, let alone maybe all of Fortnite. I wouldn't be too worried for them. Skrill's going to be the first target. Shields get dropped off in the blink of an eye. Scrap is there as well. He takes another big shot, and now they are 169 above the damage threshold. They quickly disengage because they no longer want to keep themselves in that risky spot.
You can see they don't need eliminations. They just want to set themselves up for the upcoming zones, and damage is all they wanted from that, especially with the amount of duos in the surrounding area. It's very risky to take on a full engagement here.
Attention du côté de Mustache, ça prend la Storm.
Don't like the risk, other people have to take the risk. Malibuca Mustache contested over at Grim Gates. When we tuned in, they were below the damage threshold. Couple nice shots, quick fights, the 23 above. But you know as well as I do, that's not a feeling of comfortability. In the back of Malibuca Mustache's minds, they know they have to continue to look for Surge and make a rotation while they're at it.
One damage above the blessing, granting them a bit more time, but quickly enough that blessing will come to an end as Mustache now almost cracked just 3 shield left. They're forced now to play up close and personal. Close opportunity, but so far no connections.
Yeah, I like the idea of what they were trying to do, how they were trying to execute. Drop on a team that doesn't know it's coming, but now you become the focal point. Sky and Scroll are there. Malibuca's trying to fight. He's by himself, and he gets knocked. Taken down. Mustache has the world of his shoulders, trying to stay alive. Game 1 of the EU FNCS, and you never imagined to be stuck in a situation like this after getting all that Grim Gate loot. And now two different duos closing in on Mustache.
Il se fait attendre, aïe aïe aïe, touche bien, touche à moins 80, je crois qu'il est repassé au-dessus. Mettez-nous Mustache, on veut voir Mustache. Non, il tue 40, il redescend au-dessus, 50 au-dessus.
This is not a position you want to be in, especially just having lost your duo.
Une bonne balle, mais il va tomber, dommage.
To play aggressive and leading to Mustache going down.
It's just really unfortunate for a team like Malibuca Mustache, probably one of the favorites.
Mustache et Malibuca peut-être un peu pas sur vélo.
We can't be too scared, can't fret too much. Day 1, 6 games. Day 2, point multiplier on those 6 games, so plenty of time for any teams to really pick up the pace and catch up. And that's why I think today it's so important that players start to build themselves a cushion. Get yourself a huge lead, because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
You don't, I don't, nobody does. Look at this though. They played aggressive, they got a bit of damage, but now once again just 8 above. Same situation that Malibuca and Mustache were just in. Any second, and you could go below here.
I do like how they're backtracking though. This is Fencing Fields. They've been here all game long, literally, which is why they're down on Surge. So they're able to go in and out of these builds, go through unnoticed, not let their position be known either, which kind of makes for an easy rotation when they're finally able to make it. Really only one tough team stands in their path, and they're high up on this mountain where Veno and Tayson are not afraid to box up next to them either. And you see the zones moving, 6 zone. A lot of our competitors here today, Takata, are going to get forced into the interactions this late if they're slow to rotate.
I don't think I've ever seen so many duos just be 1-2 shots away from the Storm Surge threshold. Down to 7 above now. Trulex right into the box alongside Chicho. They take down 1, but 1 more to go. Are they going to continue the pursuit as time keeps ticking, HP keeps dropping? Trulex gets out from the zone, but Chicho cleans it up.
Yeah, as a 2-tick and the zone closes, it's going to be a 5-tick. Chicho has no choice but to leave Trulex behind and continue on with himself, which is almost a reverse. It literally is almost a reverse of how they got to the grand finals in the first place. Chicho went down, Trulex was forced to clutch up. I think he got like 38 or something solo impact points, which is huge for their moment with it being only 3 games. Now, Chicho, it's your turn to return the favor, buddy.
Be careful though.
600 de métal encore.
They were just turned around looking.
600 de
Would have been a
maths.
free pickup onto Chicho, but now he's got it into zone, making a lot of boxes here to show that he's not low on materials, even though he is.
Ça va être compliqué, hein. Là, il travaille beaucoup de maths. Disons, vu qu'il était solo. 100 de maths. Il y a 42 maths. Où est-ce qu'il a que son kit?
Gets out of the focus of one team, right into the focus of another team. He just needs some chance to breathe here and get that med kit off. He has 8 points, those 2 eliminations. One team Takata needs to go down, and then placement points will start to come in.
On revoit le repli sur Camille.
Take a look at what Camille said he had been
Oh, c'est
doing.
Pink. Ouah, est-ce qu'il lui a mis? Oh, le pauvre. Oh, il a dû taper, wesh.
Gets knocked down. Quick combo
Oh,
of the
il a
water
dû
bending.
derrière.
Massetti taking shots. I don't know if Vico's going to be still up as a solo, but
Snazy.
either way, not a position you want to be in. I believe both players did get eliminated, so they're out of game 1, but Snazy put aside.
Oh,
161 above, actually looking quite strong.
You know, I was talking to a lot of people, both NA, EU, talking about these wings, talking about how fabulous they are from rotation, and nobody really used them. You know as well as I do, very few teams really use them at all. Now we're seeing them as a huge focal point of a lot of people's rotation strategy, especially here into the end game, where you need to cover those short distances in one quick burst.
Top 22, ils sont bien.
Once again, taking a look at Veno Tayson. They've been kind of on that borderline threshold of being above Surge this whole part of the game, basically. But so far, they've been doing it well. Queasy Thomas are actually going to be the duo that's close to them. I'll still continue just looking for these shots, but it's basically just getting yourself in a position where you can play this late game out with still a good amount of loot. Materials have been used to try and find these tags, but all it really takes is one refresh in the late game and you're back in business.
Yeah, it almost feels like Veno and Tayson right now are just taking things so slow. They're letting the game kind of play out, one, and probably do the same thing in game 2. And once they get a feel of how the entire lobby is playing, I expect them to come online just a little bit more. Thomas and Queasy changing things up drastically. 4 eliminations up until this point. Have to be feeling good when it comes to that Storm Surge, but a max pull for them and a couple other players in the lobby, which is going to be hard for them to cover that distance. You see the wings yet again coming out, which makes rotations like this, and you see how many other teams they now have just bypassed on this rotation and game priority.
That's what you love to see.
Pour l'instant, Camille Setti en hauteur.
2 of Queasy's 3 FNCS titles have come in the second FNCS of the year. So now that we're here once again, it might just be time for Queasy and Thomas HD to pop off. But I don't want to speak too soon. This is the first match. It's 2 days of competition. 6 matches each day, total of 12. And the ones who look like they might potentially be able to hold height here, it's Cammy and Seti. Might be something a little different that we would have expected. But at the same time, they could just be looking for tags here, and they'll drop down later. You can see how good of a position this is, especially when you have that waterbending mythic capitalizing on all the players rotating in.
My biggest worry for them is their materials. If somebody tries to battle for high, they won't be able to hold on to it. Put aside Snazy, they go down to Swizzy and Vanyak. Huge elimination for them. But knocking on the door right after is Queasy Thomas. He takes a huge shot and falls back, even knocked down by Vanyak and Swizzy. Teamwork is too strong coming out of them, but now Thomas, he's going to feel the pain. Vanyak ready to go in, but he quickly backtracks, reunite, not knowing to get too good in a situation like this in the end game.
Looking so strong for elims. Both
fait
players
tirer
being
par
up and
derrière, je crois
healthy,
qu'il
but now
est cuit,
Thomas HD
0 de
cracked,
mat.
75 effective HP and shield, 0 builds, and just 6 minis to recuperate what he's lost.
Thanks to those wings, though, I'm not necessarily too concerned. The biggest thing is those resources. The builds are
dans la rotation, ça va être très compliqué pour lui.
Both Vaniac and Swizzy rotate on out. No, he's in a much safer position for now, but how safe can you really be without materials? Even if you rotate out of the spot, you got to find a way to catch yourself one way or another.
You said you're not concerned. I'm concerned, Jacob. I am very concerned right now. 0 materials in the grand finals. I mean, you can be Thomas HD, but it's not going to be easy. You can even see Tace and Benno, both players down. Maybe hold my thought though. Thomas with another elim now dropped to 25 HP, still no shield to work with. As he's just playing the back end of zone here, trying to salvage as many placement points as possible.
Another elimination. He was the one who actually took down Venno, keeping him alive. Up layer, down layer. Zone's gonna pull back, and he found the perfect crevice to try to stay alive, but he has to watch out. Risk and Svi rotating on by right next to him, but I don't think they or anybody else have noticed Thomas up until this point.
Prime location. All it takes is a bit of awareness, though, from the dudes in the surrounding area to find Thomas HD. It's a free elim. Chapentini, Jacob. Game
Dommage,
one
toujours
on the
revenir, il nous fait un
high
sacré
ground.
You
clutch.
would never have guessed this is Chap's first FNCS finals. He is playing like a veteran.
Vaniac qui monte. Oh, Vaniac qui a découpé ce hype.
Been here for sure. Down goes Teeny. Down goes Chap. High ground changes hands, and at the perfect moment in the end game.
Dommage, t'es toujours en vie, hein, qui gratte. Hein. Quand il croit qu'il s'est remonté ce hype. Aïe aïe. Dans la zone, il y a une banane.
Everybody fighting in the late game, trying to
Je crois qu'il
topple over
reprend le
high,
height.
forcing them down. They didn't
Il a
have the
pression sur
build to
Squeezie et
keep on
Vaniac.
pursuing that high ground, so they had to drop down in a top 10 situation. Second height, but look how far away from they are from everybody else on that low ground, and they had no choice but to continue dropping down all that madness.
Camin Seti playing like we love to see, full-on consistency. They've claimed low. They're incredibly healthy. Only issue is no materials. They're going to have to take a 2 versus 2 here shortly. Can they come out on top?
Yeah, you mentioned the Cammy curse to start the show. Might look like a Cammy blessing another top position. Unfortunately, now Cammy's finally going to go down. Trying to go back, cancels the med kit. Had no choice. Thank God his squad's going to be the one to take them down, along with a little help from Debut, who actually steals away that elimination. Top 5 position with everybody looking strong as duos.
Skavit, Haris now. Looks like their second height here. They do have to be careful as they look above. Scroll, get shots taken at. They are building good. They might be low on materials. The drop down might come soon.
Yep, but Swizzy and Vaniac still waiting in the wings. They were the ones to play Busters and Disruptors once. Almost tries to find another elimination, but Fine takes him down. Ends the run of Swizzy and Vaniac at top 5, but you can see he's still going through a roller coaster of emotions, trying to make it in zone, trying to stay alive, but high ground's going to be fought for at the very end of the game. Scroll and Sky versus Riss and Speed.
Nice shots connecting from Sky here. Just one more needs to connect to take down the last player, but Scroll has been fully cracked. Sky cleans it up though. Another elim on the board. They have height. They just need to close out the game.
A huge change up from the semifinals. They were the ones contesting Yanis and Flixie. They went down 2-3 straight games. They've learned their lesson. They've adapted, and they're trying to come out on top, but unfortunate accidents happen. Sky goes down with Leaf Scroll in a 1v2 to end game 1.
Have to be careful though.
Il le fait drop.
Start moving up. Scroll
il a gagné au
in a
kit.
difficult situation, but he takes down one. Debule now playing the heal off. He does have 2 med kits. In terms of time, Scroll needs to find Debule. He will not win this heal off.
Yeah, he has to figure out at least what direction to run into. The first one's going to go down. He dives into the storm, checks the first bush. Nowhere in sight, nowhere to be found. Relvis and Debule win game 1 of the EU FNCS.
What a way to start off the grand finals, from height getting changed every second, duo by duo. Camiseti attempting to survive on the low ground. This is how you want to start a grand final.
And this has shown us a little bit of foreshadowing that it is not going to be easy for any one of these teams. You called it. Seti and Cammy having high ground. Vaniac and Swizzy stealing it away. And at the very moment, Sky and Scroll. But it was none of those high grounds teams. It didn't matter how high in the sky you were at to end the game. Debule and Relvis going almost unnoticed on the low ground with 7 eliminations to take the game away.
I mean, they showed the chemistry. It's what led them to those final moments. You had Titans going down before that. Tace and Venno, Thomas HD, Queasy. But the high ground ruled strong. Jacob, so much just happened in that game. I need some people to help us out. So, Frankie, what did we miss?
I don't think you missed a moment, boys. That was a fantastic first game. And so exciting to see all the changes at the top of high ground. But in the end, Levin, it came down.
So much just happened in that game. I need some people to help us out. So, Frankie, what did we miss?
To be fair, I think a lot of people would almost forgotten the possibilities of heal off. That end game was going almost very typical, I'd say, in many ways, right? We had Sky and Scroll, the team that had eliminated Manabuka and Mustache, so they had that Grim Gate loot, and when that team decides to go for height, it's typically, you know, jobs are good and games done. But the Ball said, no, we don't play by those rules. We're going to do our own thing with these medkits, and I mean, they were hunting in this end game. You see here, when they took down Cammy and Seti, like, they didn't just passively, you know, pass their way by Mini, they really took it by force.
Yeah, they really did, and it was those eliminations right there that really secured them, the amount of refreshes, the amount of materials, those medkits that they needed to go on to win that game. Absolutely beautifully played from these guys. And just the thought, in game 1 of Grand Finals, when the lights are as bright as they've been all season, just think, right, let's just calm down, let's go into the storm, let's take these medkits and hope that it works out. Of course, it did work out for them. We haven't seen too much from these guys this season. They haven't been popping off, starring on the top of the leaderboards, but they're definitely a duo to look out for this weekend, clearly, because they know how to play that low ground so well.
I was so excited to see how aggressive our duos were straight out the gate. And Swizzy and Vanya, they were a personal highlight for me. Wow. Just fighting all the way to the top. I particularly enjoyed them taking out Snazy and Podesai and I love the use of the Icarus wings as well.
Look at this. We haven't seen this. I have not seen this happen in this level of FNCS lobby this season yet. We haven't seen wings too much in play, and I'm sure we'll speak about those. But the way that they took height here, the way that they took it upon themselves to stay on the backside of zone, then sneak attack onto the high ground team was absolutely perfect. Unfortunately, they didn't have the materials, the minerals to stay up there, so they had to drop one down, which of course was their demise at the end. But it shows this team are confident. This is exactly what we expect from both of these guys, because they're two of the best fighters in the region, right? We expect big things, and they showed it to us there in game 1.
Ruthless aggression is the way you describe those guys right now.
Yeah, so many ruthlessly aggressive duos. Let's take a look, though, at who managed to aggress their way up the leaderboard during that match. It was certainly a lot of teams who maybe hadn't come close to impressing us, or maybe have impressed us so far this season, but haven't necessarily taken a championship. They actually were coming out on top in that one. I mean, Sky and Scroll, I have to say, Levin, were incredibly impressive. They have been threatening the top all season long, but when it counts, they are performing.
I mean, they were the beneficiaries of a problem Manabuka and Mustache have had consistently, right? We've spoken about it before. Manabuka and Mustache struggle on Surge, and so they desperately tried to take a fight with Sky and Scroll, and they were like, no, we're not going to just be pushed over. They win that fight, and so they have that Grim Gate loot now, and so they say, okay, what do we do with Grim Gate loot? They play for high ground, and they did it. Big props to Sky and Scroll, of course. They weren't landing at reckless railways throughout the season, decided not to go there and deal with Janice and Fixie. A lot of question marks about that, right? Because they did that exact same thing. Last Grand Finals didn't quite work out for them, so a lot of people were going, hold on a minute, like what is the game plan here? But things seems to be going pretty alright. Again, will they be able to fight Manabuka and Mustache every game and get that Grim Gate? Probably not. This will probably be one of the better games they have throughout the weekend. But I think they made, you know, the most of the situation for sure.
Yeah, you have to do that. When you do get that Grim Gate, when you do get that Grim Gate shotgun, it has to be a good game for me, guys. There's always that pressure on your shoulders of like, right, okay, we've got the best loot in the game. We have to do well here. I think the zones definitely helped them as well. Definitely were in their favor down there towards the south side, that sort of southwest area. But they used it to perfection. As you mentioned, 7 hearts a bit shocked about them actually switching their drop spot away from Reckless Railways. I thought they're landing more towards like the east side, down the south of the map there at Sleepy Steps. And I was like, you know, is this really going to be the best option for them? But it seems like they're able to make something out of a game no matter what. So this is a duo I'm definitely looking forward to seeing more of this weekend.
And in 15th position, we have our debut finalist, Chap, with his more experienced duo partner, Teeny. And they went for that high ground. And I absolutely loved in that game hearing Jacob and Takata be like, it's Chap, it's Teeny. And then immediately they're knocked off their perch, I think, by Swissy and Banyak Miniminer coming to spoil the party. But do you think they made enough of a statement in game number 1?
100%. Yeah, I was looking at this team. They were 200 above Surge in that first Storm Surge pop, and I was like, right, this is great for this team because I know that, you know, going into that first Grand Finals game, it's going to be very, very difficult for a first-time Grand Finalist in Chap to keep his nerve, to keep calm. But they seem to approach the Storm Surge really well. They weren't just mindlessly jumping in boxes. They weren't taking too many risks, but they were taking those sort of mid-game fights that definitely enabled them to stay above and then, of course, take high. You can see the issue, though, when you look at their materials. They just didn't quite have the materials to actually fight Vanyak all the way up.
Dommage, on n'a pas eu sa réaction quand Vanyak il a fait ça, il a du table.
I would just really want to say quickly before we go into game number 2, Levin, you did not agree with Mini Miner there.
I didn't agree. I did not agree. I thought every single height team in the lobby was on height at one point in that game, so they got to do more.
Okay, well, let's see if Chap and Tini can impress you in this next game as we head back to Jacob and Takata.
What a tall task. You guys are really making them step up to the plate, really hit it out of the park yet again. But congratulations one more time. Debule's first VR in an FNCS Finals really topples almost everything we were talking about on the day to kind of who's going to win, who's going to do good. We didn't mention them, and they showed us.
It's a great confidence booster as well, right? Being your first VR in a Grand Finals. But let's see if that momentum can continue forward because the battle bus is ready for game number 2.
Also, Takata, throughout that game, and for everybody watching at home, it was almost a battle of our high-dominant teams. Almost the top 5 in that last game. Risk and Svi, Swizzy and Vanyak, Seti and Cammy. And overall, it was won by Sky and Scroll in the end. Unfortunately, they just weren't able to close it out, but you're seeing real shines of greatness from so many players here today.
Starting off once again, shining through the Mount Olympus here. Thomas HD Queasy finished off the early game engagement quickly and instantly just started continuing on their loot path. Will they be able to do it again, though? That's the big question.
I wouldn't say they left early, but they got the loot that they were safely able to get. Maybe a couple shots on Olympus and then went straight for that bunker, which they were obviously met by another one of our top teams here in this lobby, which they had to kind of disengage from. But you're seeing a lot of the adaptations coming out from Queasy and Thomas, which you didn't really see a lot of up until this point. So I'm glad to see a team as great as they have continues to kind of mix it up in the biggest moment of it all.
Trexer, though, has lost Glebski, which is dangerous, especially having so many duos close by. Clownski lost Axe Force as well. Both solos now head-to-head.
Il joue comme ça alors qu'il a que des airs.
He's just gonna kind of go on the chase.
Pourquoi il joue comme ça alors qu'il avait
should
deux
just
airs.
protect himself just a little bit more. Clownski quickly turning around, making him regret that decision. And luckily for him, he's either just on the outside of Mount Olympus. So none of those teams realistically should try to venture over, finish off the solo. So I think he has a great shot of getting his teammate back.
Sky Scroll, we saw what they were capable of in game 1. But to make it happen once again, they have to get out of this early game. Shots coming through the windows. You can tell how well they know how to play their draw in terms of getting through, covering themselves, but will they full-on commit to this engagement? I'm not quite sure.
I'm almost not even sure like how realistic it is. I see Toos was trying to bring down some cover fire and a whole nother duo right below. And once you kind of hear all that, you notice each other, and you notice it's not going to be as safe as it was. Pleasant Park either, a fight that we saw in the beginning of that last game. And honestly, I think there's another team here towards Pleasant Piazza that may have started out in fencing fields in last game. Finn and Avo.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. It's interesting. It seems like
donc il va essayer
normally in the Grand Finals you don't see players switching up their drop of game plan too much because there was so much prep and work that was put into it. But sometimes, I guess, just after one game, it might be enough to change your mind.
Surprised to see like everybody kind of disengaging out of Pleasant Piazza for now, but it's very, very busy. At least 4 teams in this direction. So I'm personally a little bit surprised not to see too many early engagements going down. But with an extra team over in the mix, it does make it a little bit more risky.
Ooh. There's Green Gate looking a lot more aggressive this time around. Before it was more pop shots from different areas. One duo grabbed the height, other just tried and secure the medallion. Looks like Malibuca and Merstash got quite a few tags off, but not enough for them to feel comfortable enough to go fully in. The Underworld, another place contested by 3 duos, one of them being Marius and Sangilt. It looks like from those 3 duos, there's only one left. And it might even just be one player. Where's Turtle's duo?
Trying to see where Cheeps is at. He's actually on the high ground. Yep,
Ouais,
using that water bending ability to try to couple more damage. Marius knocks him down to size. Couple shots are going to get through, and the knock is going to be achieved along with the elimination. Marius and Sango continue to find ways to operate at the Underworld. It looks like he might have even boxed up Turtle here for the moment. They're ready to go in. Turtle's ready to go out as him and Cheeps run in game 2 quickly comes to an end.
Turtle put back into his shell, now forced to wait for the 3rd game as we quickly switch on over to Frizzy Howley, looking to see what they can clean up.
A lot of these early game fights, eliminations just yet, but that is some big damage on Frizzy. Pixie's there trying to back him up. Howley's also trying to join the mix, alleviate some of the pressure, but quick thinking, quick shots coming out from Pixie. Both of these players are basically down and out. You can see them trying to attack from many different angles, and Walks, while being distracted by Pixie, is able to easily clean up both of those eliminations and defend their turf.
Great way to continue it through. Dexy Eclipse now. Playing extremely aggressive on this duo on the edge of the map. You know, there's not too many teams close by, so they should have a lot of freedom here if they end up wanting to close it out. But so far, it looks like it's pop shots, it's angles trying to be found.
Yeah, a lot of time, like you said, over at this side of the map, knowing you have a ton of comfortability, knowing it's not going to be third parties, it's basically down to a 2v2, which hopefully a lot of these players have practiced up until this point. Splash is down below, just trying to make space for himself and his duo. Eclipse and Dexy just continuously trying to hound from multiple angles, catch him off guard. And you can see they're playing very, very careful with the high ground, so that way when it comes down to it, they can easily try to disengage on out, knowing that they got enough damage to where they can at least feel comfortable from here on out.
It's a great way to start it off as we go back over to the Grim Gate. We talked about it previously. There is kind of that Grim Reaper, as Frank called the Orthodoxian Trip. You play on the outskirts of the Grim Gate and come into attack as everybody else is fighting as a potential 3rd or 4th party, but you can see how much loot they've actually secured already. And shields and everything. I mean, they're looking quite healthy. Only ammunition is what they're lacking. But it looks like they might have been being chased here on the minimap. Yeah, shots coming in from Vestroki. The waterbending mythic. It looks like they're just right behind Merstash and Malibuca, wanting to claim that bunker.
C'est niqué à la carte qui va peut-être pas y mettre les cartes. Et il y a Dora qui sur le height. Certaines de ces deux avec des bons dégâts.
Of knowledge, and Teeny and Chap yet again are going to get back-to-back forecast towers in these games, and already you see them 15th place on that leaderboard. So a huge tool in their tool belt to continue to make it long and far into these end games, especially when it comes to being able to go to the slower side of that rotation of the zone, knowing where and when to kind of attack it. For Doxy's shield's getting dropped off by Merstash on the other side. Him and Malibuca just trying to take multiple angles, and the thing is, they don't necessarily know this is Tripper and Fordoxy. Tripper and Fordoxy might have a huge clue, thanks to the medallion, that this is Merstash and Malibuca, so they're able to plan accordingly.
Je sais pas s'il met de la pression de tout côté. Ouais, c'est bon, je l'ai vu.
So far, no warning.
Il t'a vu sur la décale.
A big threat as shots continue to be shot from both ends.
Qui open.
No danger for either duo yet. It's kind of that back and forth that we see around these bunkers, time in and time out. And until a big shot's connected, you can choose to continue that momentum and play extra aggressive, but if nothing happens, it might just be a little bit of damage for both duos.
Yeah, what's worrisome is what you kind of mentioned moments ago is the ammunition for Tripper and Fordoxy. It is not a ton in his Thunderburst and even less in his Gatekeeper. So both of these guys are kind of on the clock when it comes to how long they can actually stay in this situation. And I was wondering where Cammy was at because I was watching the feed. Said he was taken down. He was taken out altogether. Kind of leaves a lot on the shoulders of Cammy. With the zone moving towards the north, it's not going to be too hard for him to try to get the reboot card back. But you can see the big thing in his path. It might look like the card is being camped for now. hoping that Cammy goes back for it, and he's hoping that maybe that's where he's going to get a second elimination.
Y'a ça qui vient de tomber.
It's a tough spot to be in. So far in zone, especially with the amount of damage they have to secure. We'll see if they make the comeback, but let's get right back to the party. Looks like another duo has joined. But so far, they're just kind of taking a peek at it, deciding is it worth it to commit to.
Yeah, they're probably just waiting right now until they see a knock on their screen. And the thing is, these two teams down below fighting over the bunker may not even necessarily know where these guys are positioned right on the outside. Cammy now went back for the card. It was actually
non, remettez.
This is a big chance.
Alors ça qui vient de tomber, mais qui a mis 150. Est-ce que Malibuka va faire le 1v2 ou pas? Alors il change de pauvre. Ok, Malibuka, il a réussi en aucun.
On the other end, Murstache has gone down, Trip as well.
Il a le même biais à peu près que Trippern, que Freedoxy. Il joue la race, faut faire attention. Il va se faire open et Malibuka qui met ce 1v2. Il va se faire back, attention. Ah, puis il a plus de balles dans son pompe. C'est dommage, il aurait pu le raise, il aurait pu être bien, c'est dommage.
On those players from before, and there's even probably some scraps left over in the bunker.
Instant disengagement though after that elimination. Bunkering out, gonna get secured, and Malibuka. Only thing he got was those 2 eliminations from Trip and Fredoxy. Lost his duo partner in the meantime.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. How long is Malibuka gonna wait right now? Does he know that team is there? Just so many questions right now, Takata.
Yeah, I'd like to hope that he does. I'm not sure. I believe he got the card as he has the dashes.
Il va se faire crack, faut faire attention. Il se fait poursuivre par Robot Kebab, encore une autre team qui backstop. Ouais, qui se cache, sinon ça va être compliqué de s'en sortir. Dommage qu'il rate sa balle.
Oh, Malibuka is actually trying to hide, get a little bit of a cheeky shot, and quickly dashes on back. But sooner or later, he's going to run out of those dashes and need to re-reach the water, and that's why he's taking a little bit of detour in this building, trying to regenerate as much of that sprint as possible. Roban, for a moment there, ran out himself, but he's still just hot on the chase for Malibuka until he finally goes down. It's going to be a big elimination for Fastroki and Roban.
Je pense que je vais rester un peu plus longtemps.
Let's take a look at what happened to Cammy.
C'est quoi du côté de Cammy?
With his attempt to get back to zone.
Mais des bons dégâts du côté de Cammy.
How did? Well, that's one way to pick up an elimination, I guess. Nice shots from the DMR.
And I think, depending on how long it took, because said he was down for quite a while, but I know Cammy at least made one effort to go in before disengaging that far out. If he has this reboot card, gets close to zone, it is going to be a 1-tick. He has the legendary banana for speed, he has the flowberry fizz, and then he has multiple opportunities here for damage. This is almost like a replay of last major's Malibuka qualifier, to where he went in the zone. He stayed in there for a long time while still getting surge. So that way, if he does get the reboot back up, they're not going to be so far down that storm surge threshold, having to fight their way back up.
Luckily enough, medkits are in the inventory, so they'll be able to recuperate all the shield they're using to take this later rotate in the zone.
Ils sont tous en zone.
Veno and Tayson in a similar situation. A lot of duos just kind of doing what they can to get to zone safely here and be in a position that is not going to put them on the most congested side of zone.
Chucking some medkits just a little bit later on, try to keep them moving. They're not too far off from the zone. It's not going to do too much damage. You can see there's just one solo player rotating just to the east of them, trying to make their way there. Hopefully he doesn't get spotted out by Veno and Tayson. Their team, you can almost for sure count on them to try to pounce on a solo if they see that opportunity. In the distance, finally he's getting spotted out, and it's Cammy of all people by himself. He's already putting a lot of work to not only get the reboot card back, but take down the opponent who took down Seti. So to go down now would just be a huge disaster for Cammy and Seti.
Avant de mourir, parce qu'ils sont 5e dans le classement pour l'instant.
They don't even look like they're going to try and hold them.
Ah, je crois que Tyson essaye d'aller voir. Essaye d'aller choper Camille.
With fourth zone now coming to
Ils
a
sont
close.
300 au-dessus de la storm, mais ils essayent de le chercher.
Pace and Veno though, looks like they're not going to be as much in a rush as they were last game, being such on the borderline. But the Buell, on the other hand, might have to do a bit.
Le remettre Camille, c'est possible.
Game number 1 victors. You gotta be feeling so good. Come in, get your first
Veno qui vient de faire un kill sur Camille.
FNCS Finals history for yourself. Teammate has to be feeling confident. 97 points. All they have to do realistically is just kind of keep up the pace. A lot of the teams, you know, that we expected to have good games in game 1 did not necessarily, and I feel like it's only a matter of time before those things start to switch up. So if they can just continue to stay ahead of their competition, like I said, day 1, all about building that cushion for day 2, where there is a point multiplier for both eliminations and placement points overall.
Vanyat getting tagged as he was continuing to look for those shots. They do have that 1 elimination already, so hopefully not in too much of an urgency to find a lot more, but just 9 seconds until 5th zone will appear, forcing a lot of these duos to rotate.
And Vanyat already so far has about like 1,700 damage up until this point in game 2. 3 eliminations. Him and Swizzy just figuring always out a way to make things work throughout this competition. You're going to see a far pull for some of these teams, all while still having to worry about Storm Surge in this next zone, Takata.
Yeah, it's a difficult spot to be in. Taking a look at the leaderboard too, it's so close, all these duos.
Force, ok.
You can't even think of it that way with so many matches to be played out. It's all about being able to get out of these situations consistently. Queasy Thomas HD lining up a 3-2-1 into walks. A few shots connected, but no crack.
I really like how they've been able to adapt in game 1 with a different zone. You see them yet again adapting with their loadout. No wings this time around. Trying to take an extra heal. Obviously, the Flowberry Fizz is going to be a must for some of these rotations, and they're not too far off from zone. So as long as they can work on their Storm Surge, and my question instantly answered, 400 above, Thomas and Queasy have to be in such a great position in this game to possibly get a top 5, top 10. That's where this team has to start getting those consistent placements towards the top of the leaderboard. You cannot win an FNCS off of eliminations alone.
Yeah, if any duo is going to capitalize on having a bunch of damage so early on, it's Thomas HD and Queasy. They know how to play out the grand finals. They've done it multiple times. And I wouldn't be surprised if, like you said, they have a huge match here. Scavi, though, nice 105.
Son mec, il a l'impression quoi qu'il est moche. C'est bien ce qu'il a fait.
Time to breathe.
Not too off from the zone. Scroll is just having a little bit more of a time trying to stay alive, but on the other side,
de chaque côté, il faut faire attention.
essentially in a 1v1 situation.
Il va le raise en face.
Might be a little bit of a trade for the revive, but Scroll
Faut qu'il mette la banane et il met la pression, il a gagné normalement.
He did not have the advantage in terms of that revive, so if they were going to go for a trade, he would be much quicker than the other side. As Sky finally gets cleaned up, Teeny goes down as well, so it's official. They will be
attention, pas trop lié la banane.
What happens in this fight is trying to find his way back, almost surviving with the legendary banana. Both of these players popping that banana, and it kept them with just a sliver of HP. That's going to be a huge win.
J'aimerais bien voir ce replay sur le mec de Chap. J'aimerais bien voir son replay à lui.
You said it
Je crois qu'il avait une balle sur Rhino.
Win must have felt good, but only for a couple seconds till shots came through from Raban. The thing is, I don't think Raban actually tagged Chap, so he did not know how low he was. Also being in the zone, rotate right back in. There is another duo sneaking out. So much damage has been dealt by Chap and Teeny that they don't have to worry about tags, but it's going to be a risk. Nice pickup on the Vortexers. Volko maybe followed on shortly after, but the pressure is still on for those duos.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough for them to kind of get that reboot or revive back on up, heal up, and get a good position in the zone. And so you see teams like this, as soon as the zone begins to move, They go into those rifts. They immediately try to cover as much distance as possible. But you can see they're getting tagged in from some high positions off the side of that mountain. So as good a position as they can settle for this, which isn't too bad as long as Marius can start to heal up and alleviate some of the pressure that is bound to come.
Scary shot got connected. Was able to do it. No.
Oh, ils sont débiles en face. Ouais, ils viennent se faire cuire en deux. Oh, les pauvres.
A little pack of loot
Ouais.
knocking on his door that he picked up.
Pourquoi ils ont soutenu le jeu?
That's gonna move him enough to make it back into zone.
Les points qu'ils récupèrent pour eux, ils sont bien.
That was a huge elimination. Unfortunately, short-lived. They did just get taken down as well. But it just goes to show the potential of this team. They can fight any fight. They can almost get out of any situation. But when you're put in a sour situation after sour situation, eventually those will kind of get the best of you.
Et on se voit que je crois qu'Ami est tombé, que Sexy est tombé, je crois.
Up until now as a solo, and this is going to be some big points here for Cammy and Seti if they're able to kind of get these impact points that Cammy's looking for by himself.
Il va peut-être touter Cammy, je pense. Qui est tout seul pour l'instant. Queasy qui a dû peut-être tomber. Ah non, qui l'a rejoint, qui est juste derrière.
Cammy's done such a great job of making it into zone here.
Cammy qui vient de choper le top 25.
Not a single shot has landed onto him. Shows you how useful that Flowberry Fizz can be if you put a great mind alongside it.
Now they see him. And now they finally saw him as soon as he got past enemy lines. Queasy is like, hey, did you see this guy back here? I know. Is he a solo? Now if they don't have the information that Cammy even got there, they might not even know that he's a solo by himself. He's built boxes too wide, so it's going to be easy for him to cloud himself. But you see Queasy and Thomas, now that they noticed his location, they are moving over in that direction because they don't want to let anybody get past them for free. They waited till the zone opened up, then they moved to cover that position. That way they have the best and safest line of sight.
You can see what happened to Cringe here.
It
was a solo knocking on his door, but quickly turned lethal as they picked up their 5th elim of the match.
Uncontested Lavish Layer. No longer Queasy and Thomas landing over on that side of the map, which gives them a lot of freedom, a lot of flexibility. It's almost the center map with multiple bunker options. So if they can play their cards right, could definitely kind of come out some great points here in this game. It's Tace and Veno. And some of the struggles from them going down relatively early in that last game, or at least earlier than they would hoped. It's going to be a big moment for them to pop off, start to build that momentum, and really carry it on with them to the second half of the day.
You see zone has pulled towards Thomas, HD, and Queasy here. That 8th zone is all the duos now. Try and prep their rotation to get there. Just 7 seconds till zone starts closing. Swizzy Vanyak. Look at their loadout. Look at their materials. Even the mobility. They have it all.
Camille, il est 4 au-dessus de la star, tu vois, attention.
Definitely a good game as Cammy
Dommage, ça touchera pas dessus.
tripling his points already with a couple teams going down.
Ouh, 119 dessus, belle balle.
Great shot right there, 119, giving him a little bit more confidence when it comes to that storm surge. And eventually it might start to build up to where he can go for elimination if he does find a player by himself, splash and faint.
Passe au-dessus.
Third place in that game 1, down on surge, easily covered that gap. Does look like his teammate was getting aggressed on. He's quickly there to save the day. That first shot did so much because look how much his teammate survived with. If he didn't land that shot, his teammate would have for sure went down.
HP recuperated for how long after saving his teammate. Now he's the one that needs saving. Both players gone down. Difficult rotate in. Marius Sangild are going to be the ones that capitalized on that. As they have to be careful though. So many duos surrounding them. I'm not even sure if they can get the loot.
Marius just being very, very careful. I don't know if he heard you talk about how dangerous it was. Quickly turns around, builds the wall. And now he's just feeling it out one layer at a time before he moves forward. One of the first teams to rotate though is going to be Tayson and Veno, trying to get the slower, at least congested side of the zone. There is a couple of teams meeting them in their path, a little bit of high ground, but currently distracted. This would be the perfect time for them to try to move forward, but Veno with a snipe in hand, just kind of waiting. This is something that he does, him and Tayson. They target out that high ground team, which right now looks like to be Queasy and Thomas.
We talked about how healthy they were looking. how good of a match this could be for Queasy and Thomas.
Il va sauter sur Vadim, Vadim qui a un
I say it. Thomas HG gets knocked.
Oh, il est dissuadé, mais dommage, il avait direct en plus, c'est dommage hein.
Disaster strikes yet again for Thomas and Queasy from second place by 1 point to having a nightmare of the first day throughout 2 games. Cammy, he's really trying to make up for his teammate going down early. 24 points as a solo so far. 28 if you count his elimination that he was able to get early on. Still making things happen, but Cringe Noms, 5 eliminations so far. They have the biggest control over the high ground, but I don't want to say it too soon. Last game we saw 4 or 5 teams and only see one waiting wings to steal it away.
You could even see Venno Tasting not only getting ahead, also moving up layers, getting closer and closer to that second height, where they have a potential angle with the sniper rifle for height. Marius left alone, forced to pop the banana, and he's gonna play back a zone here.
Yeah, no trouble just yet. Just staggering himself. That way he can have a clear field straight ahead. He finds another Flowberry Fizz, which isn't much, but one charge is better than none. As Marius trying to make it in towards the zone. Doesn't have a lot of builds to protect himself, especially if he bounced on like this. Barely had enough. But now with his HP being dwindled, not enough shields to get him back up to full HP, and no builds to his name as well. Marius has to find some sort of elimination.
Continues to break on in, but as the clock keeps ticking, the zone keeps pulling further, and his materials now drop to 0. He needs an impact frag, he needs an elimination. He's dropped down to 6 HP, shots continuing from above. Goes down, Cammy now left alone.
Yeah, it was Pink and Vico who sniped away that elimination.
Cammy qui gratte bien en solo clutch.
And it seemed like Pink and Vico with the ability to have a sniper
qui vient de tomber par Pink.
Especially when they just take down Venno, truck right through him, separating him and Tayson who went down as well. Another one of the most consistent teams in Major 2.
Bah qu'il est resté toujours en vie.
Duo in the late game, especially when they're both up. They have the chemistry. They know how to secure elimination after elimination on the low ground. And they're gonna do exactly that.
Oh, le clutch de Cammy fait un sacré clutch, hein, c'est une dinguerie.
Playing a little bit slow, but now is the time to pick up the pace. Cammy having a wonderful game, 44 points. All that's a solo since the start of the game.
Il est slow
top 6
depuis.
position. Still has some bandages left, and right now he's trying to target out
Sacré clutch de Cammy.
that's Banyak and Swizzy, excuse me, there, who spotted him out at the tail end. Even though they're getting chopped down, it's no worries for them.
This is incredible. Top 6
top
already
6.
as a solo.
Attention, c'est du jeu.
He's not even done yet.
Je crois qu'il va tomber, ça va être compliqué. Il va tomber sur un. Dommage, il va tomber, il a bien raté. Vico qui va tomber. Pink qui a fait le cul sur Vagil, qui va peut-être tomber. Les HP, attention. Qui va tomber, dommage. Swizzy qui est sur le right. Il est en HP. Ryzen. Et le top 1. Bien joué. Swizzy. Bien joué le top 1.
Double digit 11 elimination victory royale. This is one of the duos we talked about in the honorable mentions that can take home Major 2 as champions. They drop at Brawlers Battleground, and from southern part of the map all the way to up north, they secured the VR. It's really what you love to see.
Man, they started this game with 5 eliminations in game 1. They knew that wasn't enough. They had a ton left in the tank. They realized it's a marathon, not a race, and they even matched their elimination totals and bested in this game. Swizzy alone, and it's moments like this, like that right there, where you survive with just 5 HP and a dream. And then you eventually just take the game with double-digit eliminations, Takata. Impressive.
And they're eliminating the best of the best on the European region. This isn't the qualifiers, this isn't the semis, this is the grand finals, and what a way to start it off. Game 2 was incredible, but there are surely some things that we missed. So, Frankie, Levin, Minnie, what do you got?
Thank you very much, guys. It's compelling to see the consistent picture that is building up right now for Swizzy and Banyak. They showed us that near miss in game 1 was not a fluke, Mini Miner.
Yeah, not at all. It's seeing them we're seeing them go on height, we're seeing them winning fights, we're seeing them getting double-digit eliminations, and lots of high ground.
Tac.
That's the case right now. We're seeing a duo that's confident. I think after last game, I was thinking, you know, they land sort of towards that south side of the map. Of course, as Takata mentioned, at Brawlers Battleground was the zone in their favor. They can make some really easy dead side rotations. This zone 11 completely on the opposite side of the map, and they're still popping off.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, we talked at the top of the show, right, about, you know, teams that people thought were going to win, right? Who were people predicting? If we had done a list of 6 instead of 5, these guys would have been on the list.
Yep.
So many people expected Vaniac and Swizzy to be doing well, and they are doing incredibly well. And it's games like this that show exactly why they're a team that's going to dominate high. It doesn't matter the zone, right? The game we saw them qualify in semi-finals was a very tough zone for them, right? It doesn't matter where they got to travel to, they will make it there, and they will play for high, and they have a good chance of winning more games.
Levin, has Swizzy and Vaniac always been such a solid high ground team, or do you think it's something about the meta in this season?
Well, when you look at them as players, it lends both well to their style, right? Vaniac's always been a player, you know, in recent years, has been known for playing for height, right? Last season, when he played with Synod, they were like the one height team in the EU, right? So Vaniac is familiar with height. Swizzy also familiar with it as well, playing in the past. So these guys are familiar with going up there, and they show that in that game.
Minnie, one of the themes that we're seeing so far is the high ground is just not being dominated consistently throughout the end game by one duo. Crimson Noms, the Dockers, far back at zone 10, they were trying to claim it, but as you saw the story go, they couldn't quite hang on to it. But does this show that they're a duo that could be
les FR qui ont détruit Pyro 70e, 70 points au 12e. Oda fait 17e, 58 points. C'est tout Angélec sont 8e. Ah, ils ont fait un retour le bis, je crois. J'ai pas pris de points. Pas fait de heal. Je comprends des rois et qui rois, c'est un peu compliqué, 10 points. 35e. Leur flash Malibuka très compliqué aussi. Ils sont à 8 points.
Yeah, I think the benefit for them, funnily enough, has been being contested. Right, and we know how good they are off sport at lavish there. And so, you know, some of that early damage problems, you know, being sort of eradicated.
Blachat aussi, très compliqué pour Blachat, ils sont à 0 points. Jazzy aussi très compliqué pour Jazzy 0 points aussi. Et qui est sur une équipe K. 0 points aussi. Compliqué. Ils ont encore 4 games pour monter ça.
These newer duos who are definitely challenging and changing hands with the old high ground 11. Are you surprised by this?
I'm not too surprised. I think the thing that impressed me the most is still seeing City and Cammy so
high up here.
Cammy is a solo so long in that game, and the guy just did not want to go down. I mean, it was getting ridiculous at a point, really. It's like, you're looking at him thinking, surely he doesn't just live, right?
Me and you in the back were like, right, yeah, this is it. This is the end. You know, he's got no materials, he's got no HP, he's got no whites, but he just keeps plowing on and plowing on, just defying all expectations. What I find most impressive is that this isn't like, you know, Seti going down maybe at 7th or 8th zone. Scammy was a solo for the entire game. Of course, they had that earlier fight to sort out their Storm Surge, but this is a man that has absolutely no fear. And I said it in the back as well. This is the best lobby of the season, and he's running around making rotations as if it's just an open scrim session. It's absolutely incredible what he's able to do, and it shows that this is a team that we really have to look out for, because they should be higher up. I mean, if Seti was alive in that game, they could be on top right now.
I was really intrigued by the moment when we saw Cammy rotating past Thomas and Queasy, who were unsuspecting and just didn't peek until Cammy had gone past. And Levin, you were saying, how does Cammy do this? How does he rotate so cleanly, especially against the likes of Queasy and Thomas?
He does it all the time. It's like Minnie says, he's one of those guys where he just has no fear. Like, it's a genuine pattern that I've noticed for years with Cammy. Like, he just has no fear. He just always gets away with like the craziest rotates and movements where you're like, how is nobody looking at him? Like, it just doesn't even make sense. But that's just what makes him so great, I guess, eh?
He's also
he's got that Polska Gorum energy. Yeah,
he's got that aura about him, and he's just like, yeah. And even if you asked him after that game, he's like, oh, Cammy, that was a great solo clutch, mate. You're absolutely insane. He'd be like, yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah. I mean, I'll take it. We want first.
Should have been a duo. That's what you would have said.
Yeah, that's the way he'd be, and that's what he shows in the game. He's just got that arrogance. I love it.
arrogance or quiet confidence? I'll let you guys be the judge on that one in chat. But talking of Camry, we've got to talk about Queasy and Thomas, given that they did miss the chance to pick him off. But actually, they had a really solid start to that game, even if they didn't manage to make it to the final few 11.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are wondering how they're going to do being triple conned. They seem to be handling it all right. They did get taken down on height there, right, in a sort of unsuspecting way. So hopefully we can see them make amends in the next coming games.
Yeah, fingers crossed for those guys. It would be lovely to see Thomas win his first ever FNCS Grand Final rather than losing one yet again by a single point. We're going to head to our caster Jacob and Takata to get to the halfway point of this evening's action. It's game number 3.
Thank you, Frankie. Look, almost halfway through the day, Jacob. But this isn't halfway through the grand finals. 6 matches to be played out today, 6 matches to be played out tomorrow for a total of 12. And I mean, you can tell it's a grand finals just by the way these lobbies are being played out.
Yeah, you're seeing a lot of our superstars that you expected to really be the cream of the crop at the top of the leaderboard, really not having those games, but from one person's disaster to another person's blessing. We're having 2 big game victories by some people we may not have mentioned, others, Takata, you and I have mentioned. Let's see if that trend can continue, because the battle bus for game 3 is ready to go.
Forty-five players are returning finalists from Major 1, including 18 full duos. It's a stacked lobby. We have multiple duos contesting Grim Gate, the Underworld, Mount Olympus. We've had some difficult early games, Jacob, and we're getting right back into the action as Sky now has already been dropped to 36 HP, just 1 shot away from getting knocked, but his mantling technique, he hits Savior, he picks up a shotgun, but he's not able to connect.
That was just an exciting turn and burn situation. Hedra is just kind of come out alive. Scroll is just trying to go through unnoticed.
Attention, Hydra qui est juste en haut. Scroll qui est full vie. Il n'a pas de pompe. Hydra, il peut peut-être faire la différence s'il trouve du shield. Faire la différence dessus.
How sure of them disrupting and distracting this fight for Scroll to try to stay alive is going to be.
Yeah, it's difficult, especially losing your teammates so early on. He's kind of just hiding until he can kind of get the initial engagement, but the issue is no shotgun, knows his opponents have one. It's just tough all around.
Yeah, I feel like this one's just kind of slowed down a lot, if anything. Really not too much fighting. Scroll just kind of has no choice, especially with how well they have been playing so far. 96 points so far in this game. They are in 5th place. Going down here would be just a huge disaster, especially with them switching up their game plan, landing Reckless Railways, switching on over towards Snooty Steps, practicing all the time that they had in this past week. Just to go down early like that, I don't believe it at all. I do believe in Scroll. I'm going to have the confidence that he will get his teammate back.
I mean, I got faith, Jacob. I'll follow you on that. Let's check what happened at the Underworld, though. That's Cringe and Noms. Looks like we're able to get that initial shotgun alongside those quick eliminations. Loot Llama as a reward.
That's gonna help so much. They don't have to farm resources as much. You obviously get a couple more heals when it comes to the loot. And then you get those eliminations. I bet you they're welcoming any contest after that one. Easy Surge, easy loot. Queasy Thomas, though, over at Mount Olympus, you can see the longer this day goes, the less and less people staying around Mount Olympus causing chaos.
Looking back here at Grim Gate, Mustache Malabuka might be the Grim Reapers this time around. Looks like they're almost aggressing towards tripping for Doxy. But one elim has already been made by Malabuka. And it looks like they might just be able to clean up the Grim Gate here.
Looks like they're increasingly getting better and better at the off-spawn fights in terms of being able to claim the loot for Grim Gates. It's just kind of what happens after, not really being able to utilize the loot to its highest and best potential. They're just kind of falling short there. As you see in the feed, Queasy just getting 2. Destru and Pyro is getting taken out over towards Mount Olympus, while Silly 7 Forzen just choose to disengage. It almost sees like 2 different mindsets going down. One team willing to get aggressive. The other team, they already got their 2 eliminations. They got what they came for in terms of Surge, and they're just ready to disengage on out. Get a great position that Levin and our analysts kind of broke down, those surge towers where they can get the best spot in order to get the most surge possible.
Making use of the bush bombs as well when getting that surge. Kind of cover yourself. So your opponents don't know exactly where you're taking shots from. You can see another quick cleanup here at Mount Olympus by Queasy and Thomas HD. They're doing a very good job of winning the early games this time around.
Il y a 10-50 dans la ville.
Are they even go for the medallion or not if they are fully uncontested? We've seen kind of decisions.
Denny qui va se fight sûrement.
Without some of these medallions, especially the one towards Brawler's Battlegrounds, kind of leaves you as like a walking tracker of some sorts where they can constantly see you, and the effects isn't necessarily as good as some of the other medallions in the game. Teeny and Chap end up in another early game skirmish, and it does look like it's an early game skirmish for the forecast tower, where they've gotten it 2 out of 2 games so far.
You gotta be careful as the crack came through on Teeny. Just giving a little freedom for Asa and Marco. You can see even in the back end there, Volko Vortex are still on the tower, but Teeny and Chap now have been able to heal up here with a little bit of time, but the back and forth is going to continue.
Attention, Teeny qui vient de se faire frag, attention.
Consistently, they've been able to win it. You see another team actually kind of boxed up.
Des bons dégâts avec ça. Wesh, sacré dégâts qu'il met avec sa PM, ça. Ça rigole pas avec la PM, hein. Ouais, il PM du tout.
Fight after fight to try to make that a possibility as just Asa just put so much pressure from below. Not wanting to give them some free and easy movement as Marco just gets tagged
un
up,
HP,
just like that.
avec le mur, la coque est présente pour ça.
For damage, but Teeny's going to be dropped 1 for 1, and it is going to put him down into a 1v1 situation. And as I say that, he's able to not only get Marcos down, keep him alive, all while another spray is coming in. This could be a successful opportunity at a revive.
Great way.
Il a pas les boules.
But Chap is not going to let that slide as he boxes himself up on the same layer.
Pas joué l'arrêt, c'est qu'il a arraché, bien joué à ça. Super bien joué de sa part.
Both angles picked wisely. And now he's going to be able to get Marco back up.
That's going to be a big win for them. But if they want the forecast tower, it doesn't stop there. One side of the map, Faint God, Splash, Dexy, and Eclipse. Almost all day long, these two teams have been battling it out over towards Rebel Roost. And the surrounding kind of splits. And they have to be careful, though, as they're trying to disengage down this area. There is another team on that island, in which it does look like they're trying to go in that direction. So they have to be careful, because now they've given up high ground, and they're surrounded by 2 teams.
Yeah, you can see it's not a good position to be in. They are going to choose to swim around to get themselves closer into zone. Comeback Blaha, sorry. As well, going to do a mid-map rotation here. They are not fully in the zone yet, as they kind of want to get to the least congested side. But there are some duos following them. Okay, forecast tower also has been secured. So they do know where these upcoming zones are going to be closing.
Comeback and Blaha not having the best so far, but still plenty of games left to go. So you can kind of pick up that pace in a moment's notice. Fox and Pixie just trying to take down Splash and Faint. Over 80 points so far in this game, and it does look like they're going to be able to barely and narrowly escape just over that mountain. And kind of gives Dexy and Eclipse, another team that was following them, an option of which team they want to go for. Do you want to travel towards zone? You see them in the mini-map beginning to disengage all the same. Splash and just kind of a little miracle happen while not getting targeted and chased around the map like we've seen so many other teams and players do before.
French and Noms once again continuing their aggression from the already 2 eliminations they have out at the start. Still in the underworld here. It's Marius Sangild who's down below. Also once again getting a flashback to game 1. They are not looking healthy, low on shield. I wonder if that's just a temporary thing. Yeah, there it is. Okay. They're more than healthy enough. They just had to recuperate it.
Without active this team and like kind of how dominant this team has been, you even see the quick stat there. I'm just more surprised about how low amount of damage they've actually been able to do as a full duo so far. They have about under 1,500 total damage as a team, which is something you wouldn't necessarily expect from a contested drop with the notoriety that is around Marius and what he's able to do in a lot of situations. So I want to see him kind of pick up the pace here one way or another to close out the day and really start off hot in day 2 tomorrow.
Pixie walks, making good use of those shield fishes to instantly recuperate what they have lost in this engagement. As Fant Splash, though, not looking healthy at all. Walks is just one pick of zone away. As the knock has came through by Pixie. 2v1 now, player advantage. Just one more shot needed, and just like that, it's been closed off. Pixie getting the job done.
Have to be careful though. Dexy and Eclipse still on that mountain range. I said they had the flexibility and the options, and they chose to just kind of stagger themselves. Wait for a lot of these fights to break out. Once you start to hear the noise, once you start to feed, get active, that's when you're going to try to go. You get that green light. We have to be careful. Wax is positioned above. Pixie is down below. You don't want to sandwich yourself and put yourself in a bad spot, and that's why you see Dexy overbuilding to try to get himself into a better spot than he was just seconds ago. Eclipse is ready to start the fight down below, and you see them slowly but surely falling down the side of the mountain, separated, isolated away from everybody else in the lobby.
Pixie though, recuperating that shield and HP that they had lost. Now, both players looking healthy. The duos don't know exactly though how tagged Wax and Pixie are. They know they just got out of an engagement. Are they low on loot? Are they low on mats? Little do they know, 3 chug spatches to spare. So this engagement will take a long time to finish if they continue playing aggressive like this.
Looking in the minimap right now again. Takata, the minimap has so much information. That third-party team rotating nearby. They hear the noise. You kind of see their arrows turning around in all directions. Is this something we want to go after? Is it not something we want to go after? You can see Dexy and Eclipse fully focused on that team that's right below them. Not a single one of these 2 players, or even all 4 of them, has had a chance to really look up and assess the situation. And as soon as I say it, you see them try to disengage on out, and that is the signal. They started to get tagged up into the distance, and now they know it's safe from the position in which they're at.
Cringe. Noms now made their way over to the bunker here where Skivvy and Haris are at. Well, they kind of trap them in there, though. Or will they kind of just take some shots and then let them be?
Tough situations.
Ouh, sur les mecs de 11, double dash comme ça.
Bunker, make their way down, and then you got that team Hurricane's Fee who are just kind of
bunkered down.
They really have nowhere to go, and luckily for them, though, the zone is in their favor.
Yeah, it's kind of the positive of the situation, right? And not only that, them already having 2 eliminations also means that they've done a good bit of damage just to get here. So even when Storm Surge does start ticking, they should not be in much of a worry. You can see Underworld 2 still has a couple duos as well. But so far, it's kind of going to be a stalemate here for both duos.
Yeah, and just kind of worries me as you see those other teams towards the Underworld. Even though they're kind of busy right now, looting up the scraps, farming up as much as they need. As soon as they want, literally at a moment's notice, they can close the gap in an instant. And even if they're not going to try to disrupt the fight as a 2v2, they can kind of wait around the side and try to third party as soon as somebody tries to disengage.
Il a une très bonne décale. Peut tellement les arracher.
As the clock ticks, the emotes come through. Skivvy here is saying, we're not going to move. You can stay there as long as you like. As Axe Force and Clownski have a different idea in mind. Looks like it's Pink, and he's got no duo partner.
Yeah, I thought I saw it in the feed. Actually confirmed it was Axe Force. He was able to get that elimination and clean up onto him. Kind of leaving him as a solo to just wander around. In the zone, though. As long as he has some heals. And very, very early on still in this game that he could get the reboot back.
Il prend une balle d'air, il a 30 HP.
A whole plethora of other worries, but he actually doesn't have any heals, so there's only so long he can stay in the zone. And even though he does have the wings, he can't necessarily use it right now going up that hill and up that mountain because it just makes him an easy target to get taken down.
Yeah, I mean, with 25 HP, that's not the position you want to be in. Even
Yannis
could just take one shot from where they're at, and if it connects, Pink is gone.
Il va sortir.
It looks like he is going to make it.
Il a tout la raise.
Towards the reboot van here.
C'est un fou. 42 mats. 10 HP, toi tu une raise.
Come back from this. They're going to need some big eliminations.
S'il passe, elle est bien, mais s'ils sont pas qu'après...
It's going to be Pink and Vico if they can get healed back up.
Yeah, and luckily they are kind of right next to a POI, a big one at that. an uncontested one from Yanis and Flixie, so there could be a lot of loot left over that actually they can utilize and kind of get themselves back into the game. Vaniac Swizzy, 138 damage above the threshold. And you can see not only are they high up on the mountain, so they can use the launch pad with Flowberry Fizz, they have the wings in their inventory, which you're seeing a lot of players popularize here today to kind of use for rotation. And it's not the normal way, Takada. They're not flying through the sky looking like an eagle. They're making short bursts from one spot to the next to make the rotation that much easier.
Yeah, and it's incredibly popular so far today, like you've mentioned. Seeing it a lot more than in previous tournaments here. Just like we saw, Vico has been brought back in the game, but with no heals, no shields before they start taking fights. I mean, hopefully they can find something, but 25 below, it's not like they have a lot of time to work with.
I got a question, and this just might be thinking outside of the box. Never mind, he's already down. Well, that question's out the window by Pink. He gets knocked. I think there's a chance for Vico to try to save him, depending on who actually got the credit for that knock. That was Kiro, so far into the distance. And I was going to say if he wanted to give himself just a little bit of a push, some fall damage, gets revived, he would have more HP in theory, but it's a little bit of a moot point now. So Vico, even though he's gotten one reboot already, he got the card and has to get ready for another one.
Yeah, it's a tough situation all around to be in. We can take a look at Cringe and Noms have been up to it in the bunker, though. It looks like they finally let in. Skavi and Hariz tried making their way up, but quickly enough it paid off for Cringe and Noms, I would think. Unless an crazy 2v1 comes through, but Hariz will get taken down. It was close though, actually. Cringe was left at 39 HP with his duo partner down, but they did get the elims.
Okay. Those elims start to build a little bit of confidence, start to get momentum flowing in your direction, just like what Cammy was able to do. Don't be mistaken, he has more than 4 points. He was able to get 44 in that last game alone as a solo. And already with one elimination in this game, they're adding more point totals. And you can see they're making the slow rotation towards the outside because they already have the early game damage. Flowberry Fizz, jump pad to jump pad. That's how they get a great spot at the edge of zone when they finally make their way there.
Vico claque une tête en face.
Sniper rifle in hand.
Qui va back.
All it takes is one headshot to turn the game around.
Ils sont 283.
And it might be
En dessous de la storm.
what this duo needs.
Oulala.
I was waiting.
Faudrait mettre une tête au snipe, là, ça va être très compliqué. Ouais.
My surprise, 283 is actually how much below they are. So a headshot sniper rifle is just going to be the start of what they need.
Headshot snipe, il a pas le choix. 327 en dessous de la storm. Plus 20 HP. Pink, il a pas de shield aussi. Ouais, ils sont cuits. Ils sont morts, la seule solution qu'ils peuvent faire, c'est une striptease au snipe. Ils sont morts sinon. Ouais, c'est impossible. Il fait trop mal dans le game. De toute façon, il a du pistolet de peau. Ah, il peut rien faire. C'était sûr, il est mort. Dommage. Ah, ils ont perdu trop de temps à ranimer à chaque fois, ils ont perdu trop de temps, ils ont pas mis, je crois qu'ils ont pas mis de dégâts quasi. 300 en dessous quand même, mais ouais. Celui qui récupère l'équipe dessus. Ils sont déjà Storm. 14 en Storm qui fait mal à tout le monde.
Still 114 below, forced to continue looking for shots as Merstash Malabuka might just be the closest duo, but they have just found that solo that was cracked. Swizzy though gets his elim stolen. As the clock keeps ticking, 52 below, damage keeps striking.
Ils sont passés au-dessus, ils ont mis des bons dégâts. Son mate il est bien, on va être remonté. Il a un HP son mate.
And that was a very, very risky shot. You see, Vaniac with just a sliver of HP. Swizzy now getting ticked down, and they do not have a chance to feel comfortable with this storm surge. They get a moment where they're above, and they immediately go below. They take some damage. Luckily, they have more than enough heal to try to out-heal their current situation. With 16 above, they are on the hunt yet again. Vaniac leading the charge. And there are so many teams they can target out as soon as they make their way here.
Shots being made, but nothing connecting. Just 31 above now. One shot from the MRG, all they need here, but they get cracked. And Vaniac gets dropped. Swizzy now from taking home the VR in the last match to being left as a solo.
Je crois des Swiss en solo clutch. Qui est gros attaque comme il peut.
anything he gets his hands on. Swizzy knows that he cannot get the reboot, cannot get his teammate back. Repositions himself a little bit down the mountain and in a much safer spot where less and less people can try to target him. He looks on, sees a team there, tries to target him, but that's Veno and Tasu who might try to take advantage of a lot of that damage, but it's Swizzy who actually gets the knock. Credit for that one as well. Quickly swipes up the body. He knows he needs as much loot as he can get his hands on as he's a solo.
I mean, if we saw anything from Cammy in the last match, 44 points as a solo. I'm hoping to see Swizzy can do something similar here.
La zone, il va scaler une banane et il va retard. Alors ça, Nuka toujours en vie. Cammy aussi c'est dit, mais c'est très mal. Faire attention.
Unfortunate positions as Seti and Cammy now have a huge strength.
Faudrait pas mourir là, faudrait gratter au moins les points de top. Pour aller chercher ce top 2 pour être possible.
Can't say no one would have predicted it because I think 11 kind of shouted it out along with Reese-Hub. It's been the Cammy curse, but I mean, if they can get top 5 in this major, is that more of a curse or is that a Cammy blessing?
Oui, je dis le blanc.
I mean, consistent tops in grand finals. You can't really complain.
Je connais des réseaux, c'est très très mal. Et c'est en dessous de la forme en plus, 169 en dessous de la forme.
The deal reason, not too far behind in 9th place.
Faudrait toucher.
Un
kill, si on peut récupérer un kill dessus là, pourquoi pas.
It's gonna be a little bit harder than those that already have the wings, but they make it look almost easy as can be. And while they're trying to get their spot in towards the zone, they immediately switch layers. They don't want to be stuck on that ultimate low ground because if you look at the mini map, Takata, there are different mountain ranges, different edges. It could drop down, it can go even higher. So you want to plan for the worst and hope for the best.
With just 20 seconds till zone does close, and that 8th zone is going to pull towards one of the edges of piers. Some know it from the forecast tower, some don't. Veno, though, quick little points, just racked up as he continues to jump on into the zone. Hazen already made his way in. Now they have the kind of little box, so a bit of safety, but you gotta be careful, as they might just be pickaxing right towards the duo.
Oh, they're ready to fight. One of the most aggressive teams in all of the land. It's just an unfortunate spot that just kind of crunched down on the side of the mountain. Really not able to kind of move around in that box as freely as they would hope.
Zenith qui va être knock à cause de la storm.
Front side of the zone where nobody's really currently at, which gives them priority position over everybody else in the lobby, especially those that are so far back that have that max pull. And now you can see as time and seconds pass, others are inching closer and closer in that direction. But Seti and Cammy are the ones that are on top.
Let's see how they play it here. They're low on HP, but being ahead of zone, it's a perfect place to be. Thomas HD Queasy, they had such a strong start to the game in the previous match, but as soon as they tried to hold height, even with almost full materials and a solid loadout, they went down in 2 seconds.
J'ai pas arrivé à
So I know that can be difficult mentally, but hopefully with 4 elims on the board already, they can come back strong now in this
Veno qui est 4 en dessous, hein. 40 en dessous, c'est compliqué. Hein.
40 constantly falling.
Faut essayer de toucher.
Don't have a ton of heals to kind of use in just a quick couple of seconds to try to out heal what Tayson kind of has left in terms of overall HP and shield. That's why Veno is just going on the attack. What a monster shot going to be landed onto Malabuka that alleviates a ton of pressure. And you see now that he's able to get the green light to go. Veno and Tayson reunite in the same box for this next rotation.
Le hype qui va essayer de faire tomber. Il repasse au-dessus, 22 au-dessus.
Cammy might be forced once again pretty soon to play as a solo if Seti does not heal up here. Both players looking quite low. That shot connected, got them to 22 above, but it's not enough for safety. 4 seconds left till zone starts closing and more opportunities arise to get shots.
Il est bien encore du moment, il est 20 au-dessus de la storm.
A challenge that I think Veno is ready and willing to take as he continues to rotate forward. Easy, very little contestation on his side of the zone as he continues to move forward.
He gets targeted out, team staggering themselves
behind for a perfect couple of shots like this. Veno still above the damage threshold. Very little to worry about other than making it from point A to point B safely.
Moi c'est Cosma qui mange la storm. Ouais, ce qu'il prend. Oh, il prend cher Cosma. Ouais. Les squeezies c'est bien.
136 above. He has lost Banyak, but we talked about it earlier. Clutching it up as a solo, there's potential for it.
99 above the damage threshold. Flowberry Fizz, more than enough left in his inventory. Top 20 position. Still have more points and distance to cover before he's done just yet. His robot is targeted the backside of zone. Cam, you said they get credit for that knock and soon to get credit for that elimination. But you can look at their damage. So only 11 above the threshold.
13 en dessous, ils vont se taper la Storm. Une balle, 59, aïe aïe aïe, ils vont tomber avec la Storm. 33. Ah, il est cuit, il est cuit. Faut toucher Camille. Aïe aïe aïe, il fallait attendre. La Storm qui s'est arrêtée. Oh, il a 2 HP. Il va se faire attendre, non? Ok, c'est bon. Là, c'est bien joué. Oh, dommage. Aïe aïe. Et Zone qui récupère le kill sur Camille.
On the board as he continues to stay up. Vidil has gone down. So many solos.
Almost looking like a solo
yes, Jacob.
Swizzy is going to be included, but he's almost looking strong, almost looking like a full duo the way he's playing. Doesn't really have time to just yet. Mustache joins the crew of solos in this game.
24, attention, bah, il va tomber, dommage. Peut-être une reprise de height avec les ailes. Ah, dommage, la fail, dommage.
Many of the people that just went down and also the last one standing so far. As he makes his way once again ahead of zone. The issue is though, only 6 more builds. Flowberry is about to be fully used up now. No more shields. Only has the wings, mobility,
en solo clutch,
and not a lot of materials. Reason though, actually still up.
136 points. Attention, 0 de mat. Aïe aïe aïe, il va tomber. Bah, dommage, il a crash. Pas, il voulait pas, je crois qu'il a crash, dommage des Kiro. Et Mappy qui sort la bonne game. Attention qu'ils vont monter dans le classement. Côté Trin, c'est trop bien, ça enchaîne les kills.
Of the late game here, looking to see where the players are. Do
they
know that Dex is in that cone? Is it a potential elimination that they can find here? Looks for the shot Dex, as Noms is going to be able to pick it up.
Il va drop. Il récupère ce kill sur Chico. Oui, il est toujours en vie. Il avance comme il peut, sans mat. D'accord, il balade une splash pour tempo la zone. Tu peux tempo la zone, hein. Je précise pas trop. Il l'a vu, il va le crack. Ah, il va tomber, dommage. Workship vient de se faire détruire. Peut-être j'entends pas pour les Français, peut-être pour Podai Sneezy. Cringe. Et le top 1 des FR de Podasai.
What a way to close it out from the skies. Explosion on the builds down below. Shotgun shot after shotgun shot. Podasai with the cleanup.
That was just an electric ending to end that game. I don't know how many other players, how many other teams, how many other Fortnite individuals you would have ever seen. Not only use the Icarus, but use to smash down on their opponents in the final moments of the game to win it all. Because even if they didn't get the elimination, they would have bounced them back into the storm to where they eventually have went down. This was just a magnificent play to end the game.
I had to pinch myself for a second when I was looking at Podasai and Snazy. I see them both take out the wings of Icarus, and I'm like, wait a minute. Are they about to charge down? Are they about to crash from above onto the low ground? It's exactly what they did. Snazy got 1 pump, but we don't talk about that because Podasai cleaned it up and got that VR. So let's head on over to the desk to break it down.
Comment tu vas, amigo? J'espère que tu vas bien.
Now, normally when we see someone crashing with some Icarus wings on, it's because they flew too close to the sun. But in the case of Snazy and Podasai, they knew exactly the moment to make that dive for the Victory Royale mini-miner.
Yeah, this is the first game, I think, all day that we've seen a team just completely dominate height throughout the entire endgame. From, I think, 9
zones, these guys held it from. Ils sont à 5 à 23 points. Ils sont vraiment bien remontés.
We saw them, of course, with these wings. They rotated to the front side, then ensure that they could claim it from there. They saved so many materials by doing that, and it seems like 11, this is kind of the meta, this is kind of the way that teams are playing right now with these wings. They're using it to save so many materials and make those rotations so much easier.
Yeah, I mean,
Ah, il a pris une grosse balle en Bampy là.
Obviously, with the Hades being taken out recently this week, you know, the spawn rate was up to those mid pitches, and I think in general people just thinking we need solutions on how to play these end games and you know, have some sort of movement. I can't lie. When I saw them whip out the wings in the final moments there, I thought it was an over. I can't lie. You know, they almost did fly too close to the sun. Like, when Slazy got one pumped, I thought, yeah, okay, they've just thrown this. But Podesai, cool, calm, collected, bang, da da dang. You win your game. I mean, it was clean. Hashtag M8 win, Allez Blue, all the rest, you know, whatever you gotta say, but big up to Podesai and Snazy for that one. That was a really cool win.
The mates are pink, aren't they? They're roses.
Prochain dans 3 minutes.
It's all right, don't worry. Don't worry. I'll teach you some French later on. We'll go through all the French orgs and you can lap up all the extra follows you get on your socials, Evan. Let's talk about Queasy and Thomas. It's always lovely to see Queasy showing how well he knows how to survive in the high ground, Evan.
I mean, again, I'm reiterating this from before. Not many people expected to see them be such a presence with them, you know, being contested or spawned with Mount Olympus and just how their season's gone in general. But they've impressed, Minnie. Like, they have really looked good throughout these games.
Yeah, they have, and I think it's fair that we give them the hype because they are, of course, a team that has got this grand finals experience. They both know how to play in these circumstances. We saw them trying to take height in the last game, didn't quite work out. Then, of course, Queasy was there at the end, couldn't quite squeeze out a couple more placement points, but it was a solid game from these guys, and I think they're overachieving right now compared to what so many people would have thought. I think a lot of people kind of wrote this team off heading into this grand finals, but now sat in 7th, this is a really nice, solid groundwork for them to bounce off, you know, for the next sort of 9 games.
Yeah, and it's funny because, you know, obviously Jacob, I think, mentioned how, you know, this time last year Major 2, Queasy and Venom winning, you know, 6 out of this whole game. I don't think that's going to happen this weekend. I don't think we'll repeat that. But, you know, a good performance here would you know, be wonderful for Queasy and Thomas.
And I mean, really, you should expect it from this duo on paper. And so it's fantastic to see that they're really stepping up as we head into this grand final. The big surprise for me, boys, looking at the standings is actually seeing my beloved Vico and Pink have a bit of a difficult mid-game. It's unusual to see them struggling for surge tags mini minor, but unfortunately, that just ended their journey early in Game 3.
Yeah, really rough for this duo. I think they had a little bit of a task to do when it came into this grand final weekend because, of course, the chains of Hades got removed ahead of grand finals. That was a huge loss for this duo because they used those to fish. They used those to just to speed up their loot path to get all those extra heals, and then all those heals that they could use in the fights to when they're going around and trying to W key different teams here, there, and everywhere, just to replenish those heals and even just save some in the fishing area. So I think that's a big mark for this duo that has just marked them down a little bit.
Meanwhile, though, Cringe and Noms, they are looking like one of the best off-spawn teams, Evan.
Yeah, I mean, they've been very impressive last season. You know, a lot of people expected them to beat Queasy and Thomas off spawn more often than not. And this season, they've been very impressive off spawn when needed. And today, they have been phenomenal playing against Cringe and Jake Buka. And I mean, you know, that early surge is clearly helping them in terms of consistently getting to these end games. And they're strutting their stuff in these end games, man. I know, Minnie, you mentioned earlier, you know, the concerns you had, obviously, the vibes were a bit after they tried to split up with each other this season. Doesn't seem to be affecting that today.
They don't seem to be playing like a duo that have had that bumpy road in terms of chemistry and togetherness this season at all. And I know at the beginning of the show, Frankie, you mentioned, or you asked me, what's the best off-spawn team? I hadn't seen too much from these guys off-spawn this season, but now, from what we're seeing today, and of course last season even as well, this is a duo that definitely are that team right now when it comes to off-spawn because they are dominating.
I really hope we can get an interview with these guys, or at least one of them. I just want to know what's happened. What has turned them into this dream team, given that they thought that the other was their nightmare? And now they've realised that actually they are definitely stronger together, because it could have been so different, you know, if any of the other duos who had qualified for semis had wanted to go with another duo, we would have seen something incredibly different happening. Is this unprecedented, this performance, Levin, for a duo that did want to go their separate ways?
No, I wouldn't say so. You'd be surprised how many top teams like don't play each other sometimes, right? Like historically, there's been teams
Dès qu'on
who
les a, il
are,
faudrait qu'ils
wanting to play with each other and they've
qu'on
gone on to
retrouve
win
cette
FNCS.
différence
We've got
50, c'est
examples of that.
dommage.
So, you know,
On voit que quand ils sont atterris.
unprecedented by any means, I'd say.
It's a professional relationship, I think.
L'équipe là, il
So
devrait
many
mettre
professional relationships in Fortnite,
spawn.
unlike the one I have with you guys
Dommage.
on the desk. We're going to head over to our
Parle trop fort,
partage zone,
peut-être.
guys, because it's time for game number 4. I'm going to put the kettle on, Levin.
I'm a little worried. It's game number 4 already. That means these games are flying by quick. Takada, I just got one question for you and everybody at home. Are you not entertained by these matches that we've seen so far?
Look, we've seen things that I've never seen in competitions at this level, right? Double wings of Icarus in the last 2v2 of the game. Like, what are we watching right now, Jacob?
Yeah, I thought that being able to see the rotations was enough, but game number 4 is gassed up and ready to go. Takada, let's get into it.
Hop,
3 games down. Now on to the 4th. There's been non-stop action in these early games. Some players even choosing to switch up their game plan a little bit. But what we're going to take a look at, it's down below in the underworld. 3 teams originally contesting this drop spot. But it looks like now it might just be 2. It's actually Lavish Lair.
Again, I think this is a blessing in disguise for Crimson Noms because they're able to get the loot. They're able to get some early surge. And even if they don't necessarily take this duo out right away, they have options of what to do afterwards. So even though I expect this to be something that's fought out unless the other team disengages, I expect, Crimson Noms, as soon as they get the loadout they want, to try to push that team out of what is their POI Lavish Lair.
This truc a mis des bons dégâts.
This, though, Mount Olympus, it looks like Thomas HD and Queasy were originally going straight into the engagement with Doom and Ice, but now
Almost a
little switch up on where these duos have been dropping within Mount Olympus. It's actually going to be the Ice that's going to take out Destru here. Doom has been dropped down, so now it's just a 1 versus 1. And it's just a waiting game for Thomas HD and Queasy to come up and clean it up.
Yeah, they just get so much flexibility because of those teams not only just fighting it out, but fighting it out as early as they are. Because while all it happens, Queasy Thomas is just looting up, getting the perfect loadout, and just getting the final elimination. And once again, it looks like virtually uncontested Mount Olympus for themselves. There might be one team on top of that mountain looking down from above, but they're not really getting enough information. A lot of that will have came from the feed.
Looking at Sky Scroll, though. Their journey ended quickly in the last match, but now they're looking a lot more healthy. Shots through the window, no connection with the shotgun, though. It's actually going to be off the Sky. It's dropped down to 70 shield, but they have the upper hand in terms of positioning here. Hopefully Scroll, though, can find an angle.
Pour deux, faut le jouer.
Just need to really make up for that last game where they didn't necessarily have the performance that they wanted, but 3 teams moving over. You got Toos and Karmi as well, disrupting this fight from a distance. You can see some of that damage landing on Sky because of it. Kind of forcing these 2 teams into extractions lower than where they're currently positioned. Even Sky and Scroll are separated from each other. But with no current engagements going on, you can see in the minimap, nobody's just trying to rush one another and clean up a lot of that damage. This fight will and does tend to slow down just a little bit.
Strokey Raban going head to head here. Elba and
craque en face, Koba il est craque en face.
Looks like they do have the upper hand
Ça
in this
représente
fight.
encore.
Cracks continue to come on through, but nothing yet to convince Fastroke and Raban to go fully in.
Ouh, 36 blancs, il s'est full box, attention.
It's a good shot. 80 damage just like that. Continues to back up Fastroke. Not going to scare him too much though. He's ready to pop some shots. Fire back at his opponents. We're not make him look like a pushover, and you can see because of that hidden robot, I've been able to get 2 different angles that they can now attack from, which some it's a blessing, but all it takes is that 1 second of separation for them to target out either Robound or Fastroke. Turn this into a 2v1 situation. There's just so much pressure coming from all around Fastroke. Not necessarily getting the upper hand in that fight and kind of forced to heal up. Back up just a little bit. And that third party gave him so much time to come in and disrupt this fight. And now the decisions have to be made. Do you continue on? Do you disengage? And I do think they're going to pick the latter.
You can see how quickly that decision came through, though. You said it on your mind already. What's the play? And they already decided we're disengaging. So they started walking away. They got a bit of damage already, and to be honest, it's all they really needed.
qui est passé.
Not too surprised. Pleasant Piazza was pretty crowded in that last game, and like I said, I think Cringe and Noms, I think that major one battle against Queasy and Thomas was a huge learning experience for them to now kind of just alpha up that POI, kind of take it as their own. But I thought I saw Marius in the distance, slowly but surely moving over. Sangilde as well, a long journey away from the underworld where they originally started. But sometimes with how they've been doing so far in this game, 60 points, they're behind their own goal, not necessarily ours. So they probably realize they need to shake things up just a little bit if they want to get back on track.
Playing sneaky here, seeing if they can
bouger.
Catch one of their opponents off guard or maybe even scavenge a bit of loot. Being separated though. They can't take too many risks here. Cringe Noms though. Alongside those 2 eliminations they already have and the decent loadout, they're going to choose to start working more on their mid game here and rotating.
The team so far, yeah, they've really had almost virtually no struggles when it has come to Storm Surge. Trap has about 1,700 damage. Our Cringe has 1,700 damage by himself. Noms has about 1,400. So they are doing just enough when it comes to that Storm Surge to constantly keep themselves above the threshold, not worrying about taking damage. So that way they can primarily focus on their positioning through each and every one of these mid games.
An engagement that we've seen time and time again. On the corner of the map, we see a lot of fights taking place. One of them, Pixie and Walks like being involved in, but you can see the danger that can come from it if you look at the mini-map at the bottom right. Another 2 duos about to be in their own fight potentially. So either team that takes those initial shots could quickly get third-partied, which is maybe why Walks and Pixie here have just decided, you know, we should just get out of here. Zone's going to start closing. We do not want to be on the edge.
You just got to be careful, because even though that side of the map is opened up, if the zone does pull away, that will put the congested side of the zone. Finally tune on board Yanis and Flixie. Not as uncontested as a drop as we thought we were going to see to start the day. You see multiple teams, including CZB and Nathan, moving in over towards Reckless Railway, stealing away the loot. And that's what happens when you're a little slow to get out of your POI. You try to look just a little too much. Play, make up, boxes his opponent. First shot's gonna land on the other one as well. Both of them are being put to just low HP, but Scroll looks like he's just by himself. I don't know where Sky is at. He finally joins the mix, but at the perfect time, both of his opponents were dropped to just very little HP, and he's just firing shot after shot after shot, and so he's finally able to pick up a knock on at least one of the 2 players so far.
Zero caught running, didn't even have a chance to turn around as Sky picked up the Elim. I think they're even going to be happy with that. They could chase the solo, but it's not worth it at this point. Because now they're going to comfortably, with that bit amount of damage, just continue with their match. The deal reason, right above Swizzy and Vanyak, Titanic duos going head to head.
See teams you almost expect to be near the top of the leaderboard through and through. 219 points though for Swizzy and Vanyak. That calm, cool, collected game plan. They already have a win. They have consistency underneath their belt. And even though this is just 6 games through day 1 and they got 6 more tomorrow, you want to give yourself as much of a cushion over the rest of the pack as possible.
Ils ont quasi 100 points sur les 6e.
Could potentially mean huge shifts in the leaderboard, but as both players seem to have disengaged, it'll be a bit of time for them to continue with their paths. Let's take a look though at Sky and Scroll, what they were able to do here.
First shot, and just the pressure is just too much. And that's what happens when you have a lot of that piece control. You can take shortcuts while your opponent is trying to escape, and then you kind of have blocked off on one wall, boxed in your box, really no exits. It's kind of what you'd expect from Sky and Scroll.
Teeny Chap, huge start to game 1. I'd love to see them play once again for that height, if they can make it there. But as the bunker battle continues, these can take a lot of time to conclude.
A lot of hype surrounding this team. And it's the early games you can kind of see a lot of their potential, a lot of their shines of greatness. It's just the end game or lack of opportunity to play some of these end games out.
Peut-être pour le
Is where they
coffre.
begin to fall short. A little bit of a cheeky opportunity there.
Alors
Trying to
attention
go
de
for a
finir
snipe
comme
shot.
ça
Vocal
peut partir
Vortexers
très vite. Hein.
continuously
Ça peut
trying
faire
to
super
gain
mal.
the pieces
Éviter le
back, and they're
coup
willing to trap themselves in
Comme là,
this
c'est
bunker
qu'ils
to
vont
make
être
sure
bloqués en
that they
fait.
get the loot. You see the zone is going to be
C'est
all
facile
around them,
d'ailleurs
so
de
they have
vouloir
more than
vraiment
enough time
mettre
to
beaucoup
wait
de
out
pression.
Chapatini.
Shots continue to come on through. Getting a flashback from the last match. We saw how long it took to get out of that bunker. And this might just be a similar scenario.
Basically up to Vocal Vortexers how long they want to stay down there, and then Teeny and Chap. I feel like their time limit is how much surge they currently have. Do you have the luxury to wait in there, or do you have to kind of build one of these towers like you see Queasy and Thomas in order to get your own damage? Not too far off of where they start towards Mount Olympus. Definitely have kind of handled a lot of the struggles that they had up until this point. They just need to be able to push themselves over the top. Played to that full potential. 140 points, great spot on the leaderboard where they're currently at. But you know Thomas, you know Queasy, never have these guys placed outside of the top 10 in an FNCS.
I know, I'm getting good feelings with Thomas and Queasy. They haven't completely popped off yet, but they're getting closer and closer, Jacob. And the good news is with 2 days of competition, 6 more matches to be played out tomorrow.
Donc le premier,
3
les
more today,
100
including
points
this one.
sur les 100 points
I think
sur
this
les
could be one of the duos that
sur les
potentially will
films.
take home that Axe of Champions.
Hey, they got as good a shot as any. And the way Mount Olympus has been playing out so far here today, it's playing out perfectly in their favor. And a battle I felt like we kind of talked about. We mentioned it just a little bit. Pink and Vico, Yanis and Flixie, the possibility of them two engaging is actually real, especially with not too many opportunities for Yanis and Flixie to get the Storm Surge to start out on Reckless Railways. This is something that we saw very, very similar in Major 1. They rotated over towards this forecast tower. Coincidentally enough, it was against Pink and Vico where they tried to get as much surge as possible.
Yeah, we talked about it earlier. The potential of that back and forth hasn't been happening too much today, but there's still a lot of time. As now the separation has come through from both duos. Nothing too risky on either side. Just 18 seconds till third zone closes and fourth appears, so we'll see them make their way closer and closer into the zone here. But Cringe and Noms once again, it's non-stop action for this duo.
Yeah, they're ready to take a challenge after challenge. And you can see they're so far away from their original landing spot of Lavish Layer. So they went hunting for good positioning, and they ran into Cheeps and Turtle, who didn't have to go far from the original drop spot of the Underworld. And Cheeps and Turtle, one of the teams that has pulled out at least one VR throughout the qualification process of the semifinals, proving that they have the blueprint down packed, especially when it comes to those set lobbies. But now when you're playing against the best of the best, all stacked in one lobby, this is where you get put to the test.
Banyek gonna choose to separate a little bit. Both sides of the ridge have eyes on them now, but you can even see on the mini map the only duos that are in the surrounding area are quite far. So it looks like they're kind of planning where they're gonna take this launch pad to.
Toute la game, il est là.
No matter where the zone goes, they have the inventory to get max height on that launch pad. Combine the wings of Icarus, you combine the Flowberry Fizz, you launch off that launch pad, and you kind of get your pick of the litter of literally exactly where you want to land. And if the zone does pull in this direction, I think that will be a huge blessing for these guys to be able to maintain that position high up on the mountain with an escape plan right behind them.
100%. Pixie walks, though, in between, what, 3-4 different duos? Maybe even more? As some of them start to disengage here at the Underworld, but the good news is they're making use of their time here, refarming their break. Almost have cap materials if they can max up their break here. We'll see where this zone does pull, but so far it looks like nobody in this area wants to take shots at each other.
He's not just yet. Probably just a little too early in some scenarios. Queasy and Thomas kind of back to where I didn't expect them to be with how well they've been playing so far. I thought they would kind of minimize the amount of time they're staying in zone for as long as they are, especially since it's the finals. We've already had at least one heal off so far. But with 349 damage above the Storm Surge threshold, they do have the luxury to maintain their position in the Storm. They have the Flowberries, they have the Legendary Bananas, so it won't be long before we see them outside of the zone and even possibly having to rotate to the next.
Je connais Trash, il est 90 en dessous de Storm.
Zohan and Trash, 90 below here. Good news is being in the underworld, you do have that river of sticks that gives you those dashes to kind of move themselves quickly around the surrounding area and potentially even find some other players that might trade shots with them. But as the clock's ticking, they're getting more below. Already 141.
Ça vient de Zico qui vient de récupérer un kill sur
They've just
Arcadia.
got 18 seconds until Storm Surge will start ticking, so
Pourquoi pas? Il a un HP, pourquoi pas? Ça fait des coupés. C'est le moment qu'il faut mettre sa Storm.
Getting a huge amount of damage, but it's not enough.
Yeah, really catching a lot of players off guard in this finals. It's just not something you scrimmed against, not something you practice against. You even got the Thunderbolt of Zeus coming in from different directions, forcing Trash and Zohan to just not get the Storm Surge that they wanted, and now they're falling further and further below that damage threshold. Even though they do have their eyes on the Cheeps and Turtles, they're not really going to get the opportunity. Zohan's finally going to get knocked by Cringe, who now re-enters into the mix. Him and Noms are able to clean up that elimination fully, get the loot. Even though they're pressured momentarily, they have very little to worry about. Now that they got a huge refresh, they get the materials, and they're 550 damage above the surge threshold.
Trash not only getting kicked by Zone, getting as well by Cheap and Turtle. Noms, though, know exactly what happened. They're hungry for a little bit of the pie. Shot comes through, nothing connected.
C'est comment?
Storm Surge really dictating
ça vient de tomber. Il faudrait qu'il va tomber avec la Storm. Il est en dessous. Parti touche. Dommage pour les mutes.
Trying to survive, but he gets taken down all the same. The gentle mates weren't handled so gently in that last fight. From a big win to getting taken down before placements.
Prodoxy and Trip.
Côté Tretoxy en dessous. Et de 9, ça va. Juste à mettre une petite balle.
The good news is they do have a lot of players in the surrounding area. And Alex and Sado even looking like they're a little desperate as well with their edits they're doing on the cone. So there should be opportunities here to get tags. With that Thunderbolt of Zeus, Prodoxy here might try and pull something off.
Yeah, typically it's Prodoxy and Trippin. Even Trulex and Chicho, they like to spot out some of these sky bases in the distance. They use the quick window, trying to cover as much as possible. None of those shots realistically able to bleed through, but Prodoxy, you got to give him at least an A for attempting something like that, especially since he's 24 damage below the threshold.
I love how he lined it up too. 2 boxes up, 1 little window, full safety. While throwing those Thunderbolts, and it looks like he might just look for one more.
At least some damage is gonna hit.
Passe au-dessus.
Whether if it's 11 or 1, being above the damage threshold is where you want to be. Instantly they fall right down below 26, back where they began. But Volko, Vortex, there's ones on the other side that have to meet their maker. First one's gonna get dropped. Volko goes down very, very easy to Prodoxy and Trippin, and they have the choice here. Now that they got all the loot, they got the elimination and the damage for Surge, do you keep going or do you disengage now that you're just getting taken out by Storm? Each second you last is gonna be less health you're able to leave with.
As you can see, how many players are getting affected by the Storm Surge. Lightning bolts come from the sky. Benno Tayson being one of the duos, but all they need is one quick shot. Cherry is down below. Can Benno connect the shot though, as players from afar are still continuing to apply pressure? No shots been connected yet. They've lost so much shield already. Just not being able to get that one tag.
Mais 62, passe au-dessus, c'est bien joué. Pourquoi pas le kill là-dessus? Il faut tuer Vadil, allez. Dommage.
Just trying to keep on increasing that Storm Surge. They're in such an okay position to stagger themselves back and get the surge, but it has to be worth it. You have to at least get it at the minimum.
Good news. Like I mentioned earlier, being in this part of the map, you can rotate a lot quicker with that river of sticks, even though Reason was unable to do so. Everyone having those dashes also just allows for a majority of the duos to get
bien la gérer au début, c'est très compliqué.
Thomas HT and Queasy being one of the duos, kind of just taking shots at everybody that's rotating in, but Benno now looks like they found it. The shots they so desperately needed has put them 70 above, but how long are they going to be comfortable with that?
I like the way he's just taking opportunities and not really backing down from a challenge. That's something that you have to do in moments like this for Venno and Tayson. Be persistent, not really give up on the chase. Two of the greatest players in all of Fortnite. They know exactly how to handle pressure from all directions. Yanis and Flixie, they're the ones that are in their line of sight. Voltiax and Psycho Cool, same ones feeling that pressure outside of the zone, trying to make their way in.
135 above, drop down to 106, continuing to look for those angles.
Une fois s'ils prennent la storm,
Now you
deux
gotta be
matchs là.
careful, the pressure's on them. It's Yanis who's looking to get
Et en
in.
face, c'est Giannis, ils vont mourir de la storm. Je sais pas s'ils vont toucher, mais
Flixie as well,
ouais, qui
following
touche.
shortly after. Both players now
Giannis qui va tomber.
just on the borderline of getting eliminated to Surge.
Non, il survit quand il peut. Ah, ils ont un HP, il faudrait qu'il les joue. J'ai récupéré le kill
As he
dessus.
knows if he allows them
La
to get
storm qui
damage,
s'arrête.
it could
Oh,
be
c'est
what saves them.
dommage. Ah, ils avaient un HP de, c'est dommage.
They're going to desperately need to continue to hold their position because there's going to be teams all around them trying to break into the box. Swizzy's feeling some of that same pressure on the other side, but they're ready for a challenge. They've been practicing. They've been progressively building that momentum here throughout the day, and I don't think there's going to be very many teams that can stop them when they're on this hot streak.
Definitely not. But what might just stop them is damage dealt. So many players on the borderline. You can see how difficult it is in grand finals. It's no qualifier or semis. This is literally the hardest lobbies to get damage in. And a significant amount.
Squeezie et Vanek, c'est bien
For
qu'ils
them,
font
even though they're
leur
falling
storm
below
au
the damage
début.
threshold,
C'est
they're
bien.
consistently doing just enough, landing one shot here, two shots
Après,
there, a couple
côté
more,
de Squeezie.
trying to bleed through Honest V and Hriss, who's
Et on
also getting
dessus.
targeted out by a whole nother team, and that's what you get when you're Squeezie and Vaniac, and you
des
build
dégâts, des
yourself
clean sheets.
into this position. You're able to kind of
Ouais,
target
c'est
everybody
bon.
else that doesn't have that same advantage as you do. Even if you don't get the elimination, you kind of force them into tough spots with their backs up against the zone.
Zone has pulled northeast here, quite far from almost every duo in the lobby.
C'est Storm qui va taper sur tout le
So now they
monde.
will be forced to rotate. The good news is, during these rotations, it's going to open up chances to take shots. Will they align is the big question, though. As Swizzy now makes of shots from afar, makes of up close and personal. Going to be able to finish off the knock here as well. It's going to be a good amount of damage. 271 above now, as they'll have to make their way to zone.
Yeah, it's just one of those situations to where you've been persistent throughout the entirety of this endgame, and now you get to reap the rewards and really not having to worry about Surge. As this game does progress, there's not too many players that need to go down from zone to zone before it turns off altogether. And the last time we see Seti and Cammy with the high ground, it was stolen away from them late in the game. Let's hope they can learn from those mistakes and really come out with a huge VR.
The zone gets smaller and smaller. The pressure just keeps on weighing down the shoulders of these players. Tayson's already lost Veno. He's forced to try and hold on. Will he try and pick him back up? Will he just let him go? Pressure from the sides. I'm trying to think if one of the duos knows or who got that knock. Will they continue applying the pressure? Tayson might just be able to pick up Veno here. This could be huge.
Yeah, this could be a big moment for them. And I like the way he assessed the situation before instantly trying to go for that revive. Knowing that anybody around any corner can hear with the audio visuals that revive coming out and try to attack. And that's why everybody here is proactively trying to get prepared for this next rotation. Majority of the lobby does have the front side of the zone, but there are a few players staggered around that zone that have the furthest distance to cover.
5 seconds, and the rotate begins. Cringe noms now. If you look up above, though, it's Cammy and Seti. Looks like they want high ground this game. The zones have pulled in their favor. Now they just need to maintain it. They have the water-bending mythic, so they can continue raining down from above.
Ouais, ils sont en dessous de la storm, fais attention à 9 en dessous.
They need to start connecting these shots.
Yeah, not necessarily too worried. Cammy does have that water-bending ability that we've seen terrorize so many teams from above in games past. Sky and Scroll definitely picking up the pace throughout last couple games, and Tayson and Veno staying ahead of the curve every step of the way, from the left side of the zone to the right side of the zone, knowing which rotation to make to err on the safe side.
C'est très compliqué.
Down. Queasy once again left as a solo. Just 30 above, forced to connect at least 1 or 2 shots here with the SMG. The zone keeps closing though. Playing as a solo, it's more difficult to go ahead, especially if you're not too healthy on materials. Good news is, Queasy has 27 builds. This should be more than enough to get him at the zone, but another solo that's clutching it up is Tayson.
Yeah, top 10 positions for both these players in solo is going to be huge for consistency on the leaderboard, but Tayson goes down. Queasy, he's trying to make his way in towards the zone, but he goes down as well. Both Chap and Marius get credit for both of those eliminations, even though they're on separate teams. They know exactly what it takes to reach the top.
Titans taken out of the game as Swizzy knocks down another. Noms gets fully eliminated. Vanyak and Swizzy now up to 5. They're playing on this border of the zone, closer to mid-ground, but are they going to choose to change it up? Wings of Icarus once again conserving their materials as they look up, start chopping down height.
Yeah, this is going to be a big moment for them with Seti and Cammy coming crashing down. They try to figure out a way to hold on to the backside of the zone. It cost them everything. Great shots by Swizzy coming through. And now they are the leaders. They are the kings on top of high ground.
Taking it at the perfect moment now. Leaders of the high ground, all they have to do is stay up above as Merstash is continuing left alone.
Prendre les kits.
If anybody can make it happen, especially finding med kits at the perfect moment, it is going to be Merstash, but it's only one med kit,
Camille sur le clutch, il a une banane. Il va tomber, dommage.
Cammy feeling the pressure, he goes down as well. Top 6, and it's anybody's game.
So many duos playing together here. The chemistry is high in this match. Sky and Scroll, they've been incredibly close now. 6-7 eliminations. Looking healthy as well. They might just try and retake height here.
It's going to be the perfect opportunity as long as Swizzy and Vanyak don't see it coming, but it does look like they have their eyes on the prize, forcing every team that tries to climb up back down into the ground, facing off one next, and that's Trulex and Chicho. 2 eliminations so far, 170 points, trying to make up for lost time, and this is a chance with Sky and Scroll on the other time. They're feeling the pressure, but Trulex is up for a challenge.
All the battles forced to unfold in the low ground now. Duo versus solo as Sky now
Marius qui est toujours en vie, qui
garde
bien.
It's Marius though, rotating inside of the zone, dropped to 20 HP, just 2 ticks away. Sky as well gonna go down. Marius is still up.
Yeah, everybody dropping like flies here in towards the end game, and Marius might be the one that gets the good portion of that loot, but you still got a team positioned right below, with the Kings on top of the castle right above. They're looking to be the first team to get at least 2 victories here in the EU FNCS.
Looking to rain down from above as the low ground duo is getting stuck in the dirt here. They need to break through previous builds to make it into the zone, and Marius might just be on the other end here as he continues to build on up little by little. One solo in the middle of the height and low sandwich. Can he make something happen?
Hey, if anybody can make it happen, it is going to be him. We've seen big plays already once, and already you see it. Swizzy ready to come crash, landing down. Vanyak does it again, learning on the fly, but he gets dropped down, and the win is solidified by Swizzy.
The theme continues crashing from above once again. High ground plus Wings of Icarus. Is this the new meta?
I think it has definitely shaken up a bunch in this last couple of games. We didn't really see it at all leading up into the grand finals, but now things have changed. Players are forced to adapt on the fly.
What a way to close it out. They took high ground at the perfect moment, taking out Seti, leaving Cammy alone. And once they were up above, Swizzy and Vanyak, all they had to do was play it by the book and close it out in that last 2 versus 2 where we saw a replica of how the previous match concluded.
Yeah, I was a little scared. I was a little nervous. I saw Swizzy dropping down by himself. I'm looking around. I was like, is that a bird? Is that a play? No, it's just Vanyak with the Wings of Icarus ready to have a crash landing and take that game away. And it was a game they deserved. They've had high ground for a couple of zones and put pressure on everybody below them to make sure that game was theirs.
That was insane. I'm sure down below they were looking above, thinking the same thing that was on your mind, but I want to see how that's shaking up the leaderboard. So Frankie, what you got for us?
I'm also very excited. I've also learned yet another motto from watching the games today. I love a motto, boys, as well, you know, which is why suffer from full damage when you can Icarus down and cause full damage instead, Levin. And I think it's obviously a tactic that's really paying off for these boys. Do you think it's something they can sustain?
I mean, yeah, it's just so perfect in those final moments, right? One of you spray down, the other one just sort of crash landing your way onto the low ground team. Just cause that ultimate bit of chaos. I mean, Swizzy and Vanyak, it's looking really nice for them right now, I'll be honest. 2 wins now, they look so solid. I think the key standout thing for me, and I think we'll see in the highlights in a second, the way they took height in this game, the beam onto Seti and Cammy, who were up there chilling, looking comfy, was disgusting. It was like a laser beam. I mean, they did not have any chance of stopping it. And it's right here. Look at this. Seti's just thinking, okay, we're getting chopped out. What's going on? Oh my!
Wow.
It's disgusting.
Ouais, mais
What do you do?
ce qu'il a mis
I mean, it's that assault rifle. It's that assault rifle they get from their drop. It certainly packs a punch, and you can see exactly the way they did that. They just looked back, sprayed out the back, and of course, Seti had no chance. This is what I really like about this as well, actually. While Vanyek was going down, Swizzy actually made sure that they were just looking at him first, and instead of actually attacking the builds from Vanyek, which we saw Snazy and Podeside do when they, of course, got their win, he actually just went around the builds and then directly onto the players, which just launched them away, caused all kinds of chaos, and ultimately worked out in their favor.
Like the sacrificial bird trick.
Yes.
the little dive bomb on top. I want to talk about some of the other duos that are still doing well and doing strong. And actually, we should start with Cammy and Seti because, yes, they did get chopped down by the eventual winners. But actually, whether it's Cammy solo clutching or the boys together getting to the end game, they are really impressing today, Mini Miner.
Yeah, this is exactly what we wanted to see from this duo, right? We haven't quite seen this perfect game from them yet. Even this game a little bit below up there on height, but it's this water bending from Cammy, the ability to keep on applying pressure to the entire lobby. We saw it even before they took height. They were spraying all the time onto that opposite height, making sure that nobody else stood a chance. Of course, this is a moment right here when Seti went down. Cammy still had the height, but of course he had to drop down. There was no way he was going to hold that against Swizzy and Vanyek. But really, really solid from these guys. They just need to keep up that consistency, which is exactly what we know from this duo. They'll find success, I'm sure.
And Cringe and Noms, it's actually so surprising that they haven't got Victory Royale yet, 11, because these guys are fighting tooth and nail consistently making it to the end.
Yeah, I mean, Swizzy and Vanyek making it tough for them, right? They're stealing all the Victory Royales away from everyone. I think ultimately, right, those three teams in that top three, even I'd say the four teams in Seti and Cammy, they've just been so consistent, so ever-present in these endgames, right? Just every single endgame, all four of those teams are somewhere deep in there, making a big impact in some way. And so, yeah, if the games keep going like this, I mean, I don't expect to see much more change.
Yeah, well, look at that. Swizzy and Vanyek with 27, Cringe and Noms with 28. That just completely destroys, blows the rest of the lobby out of the park in terms of eliminations. Double a lot of teams' eliminations as well. It just shows that although we talked about it at the beginning of the show, a lot of surge strategies this season are basing up in big towers, making sure to keep your distance. The teams that are finding those eliminations, particularly when they're making it into endgame and then, of course, taking height, they're the ones that are finding the most success.
We last saw Mustache in that game as a solo trying to clutch it out, and unfortunately wasn't able to survive the chaos. But do we think that this is a duo that has the chance to really defend their Major 1 title by the way that they're playing so far, Levin?
I mean, by the way they're playing so far, maybe not, right? Because as we've seen, the mid games and end games, they just look so stretched. Everything looks very scuffed. They're struggling with surge. They don't have much loot. By the time you get to end game, or by not much loot, I mean much mats, right? The loot looks good in the inventory, but the materials always looks like a very dire situation. The reality is for these guys, though, is again, I hate to harp on this, 2-day format, 1.5x points tomorrow. If tomorrow they just start having a couple of those typical Manabuka Mustache games, if they can figure out Surge, they will be flying up that leaderboard. So I'm not hitting the panic button yet with those two.
Yeah, I think.
Are you hitting the? Oh no, go right ahead.
Well, you know what? I think we're thinking the same thing, Frankie. I'm kind of hitting the panic button a little bit about this duo because I thought, right, this duo need to have a very, very solid day one, particularly with how that Grimgate situation is. You never know what could happen on day two, because if you look at a team that maybe is in 50th place, they might think, why don't we just land on Grimgate? Why not give it a go for a couple of games, particularly when the points are 1.5 times in placement and eliminations. They're sort of susceptible to getting that team landing on them, maybe multiple teams or maybe teams third-partying in, so it's quite risky for them, and of course having a bad day one is not working out, not going to work out too well for them, I don't think.
I figured that the panic button might be pushed by you, Mini Miner, and I also wanted to ask if you were also considering pushing it for Tayson.
I mean, it was a team that I said would win. Not too panicked yet, because of course they still have a long way to go.
Yeah, they really do. Meanwhile, Levin, you got a little smug little grin on your face, mate, because Seti and Cammy doing quite well.
No, it's way too early to speak. Way too early to speak.
It's true. He's such a clever young man, isn't he? This one, biding his time to lord it over us all. We've got 2 more games tonight, so let's head into game number 5 with Takata and Jacob.
Thank you so much. And I'd be surprised if you didn't think Swizzy and Vaniac would show up and show out here today. Uncontested for Brawlers Battleground, how well they performed through the qualifiers and the semifinals. I think we have a team, might be too early, Takata, that is in the race for that first place spot. And if they perform as well here as they do in day 2, they'll have it on lock as a championship. Let's get right into the next game.
Et pour le live Twitch Fortnite, je referai ça lundi.
Levin said it best. It's too early to tell, especially with tomorrow being 1.5x points. Anything can still change up on the leaderboard. Day 2 is where we'll truly see everything unfold. Back at Lavish Lair, though, Cringe and Noms once again in a quick head-to-head.
Yeah, and Cringe and Noms are one of those teams. They're not going to split the loot. They don't want to give half of Lavish Layer on and then worry about where they're going to get their loot elsewhere during their loot path. They're a team that wants to make sure this team knows, hey, if you're going to land here, only one of us will make it out alive to finish this game out. And Cringe and Jake, you see them slowly but surely not taking the same aggressive spots on that drop. It shows a little bit of a sign of weakness in my eyes.
Le problème, c'est qu'ils sont 6 en fait. Il y a 3 teams dans leur spawn.
Have their
eux et 2 teams,
pretty uncontested, a freedom to loot a little bit before getting into the action. Last game, they basically got gifted an elimination as they came into the third party. Will it happen again, though? I don't think the duos want to replicate that.
Yeah, I think a couple of these duos taking different spots this time around, including Queasy and Thomas, kind of switch things up, which kind of changes up the whole dynamic of that drop spot in the fight altogether. But fight that isn't going to switch up is going to be this one. Like I said, Cringe and Noms, they just want to prove their dominance here. 278 points so far in second place. And the games that they've had have been phenomenal. 8th, 4th, 2nd. Their worst game is a 13th with 6 elims. Like, that to me is surprising to say is your worst game.
I mean, it's insane. In terms of consistency, it is unreal. But it's difficult to keep that up. If anything, though, they can make it happen. But as that engagement continues, we can see what else is going on around here. Hidden in the bush, Jacob. No shots need to be shot here. He does not want to give away his position. Oh, do they know? Look at the minimap. Look at the minimap, the arrow eclipse pointing. As the prey is now being hunted.
I really did like what he was thinking. I wish he would have just popped the banana of the fizz while he was still in the bush. That way when he finally ran, he can actually run. But you got to give him an A for at least the effort. Let's see how he's able to stay alive. And we'll grade that one as Eclipse and Dexy just seem to be hot on the chase. Even making him kind of tear off the side of the mountain. Noms and Cringe, they were at least able to get 1 elimination so far, and that's where you're seeing a lot of these early game skirmishes that have been drawn out, taking some time. They're getting quicker and quicker to the finish.
Continuing to hunt now. In the 2v1. Upper hand for Cringe and Noms. All they gotta do is continue chasing here. Not a lot of freedom for their opponent. As the white tag comes through, confidence rises. We gotta be careful. Pump shot attempted, but not landed. It's gonna be Noms that secures it.
What's great is that's almost like 8 free points. Anytime that team lands at free points, free surge. Obviously, it'll shake things up if they actually go down off spawn, because especially if it happens tomorrow in those 1.5 point multiplier, that's when things can come coming down. And then you also have that day to prepare, look back at a lot of the VODs, figure out what went wrong, figure out what went right, try to replicate the successes while minimizing the mistakes.
You know, what do you do at that point? You go like 0-6 day 1. Do you keep it going day 2 and just try and kind of adapt at the same drop spot, or do you switch it up? It's a tough decision you have to make.
Even seeing teams like this, Vocal and Vortex, they're switching things up. Really haven't had the best start to the days so far, even though there's 2 games left. It's not too late to just switch up where you're landing altogether, or just engage out of a fight right out of the gates. And as we tune in, Veno, Tayson, they already have a knock on the Podicide, which is quickly cleaned up by Veno. And they see where Snazy's at, so you know Tayson and Veno strapping up their laces because they're ready to go on the chase.
It's not going to last too long. As Tayson now drops right onto Snazy's head. 2 shots being connected. Quick, clean. Way to finish it off.
Quick and easy. Talked about possibly pressing the panic button for a team like this. I feel like it's only a matter of time before they become online, start creating some consistency, and go back to the team and players that you know they can be, perform at the highest level. And this is kind of a replay of the first one getting taken down and Tayson cleaning up Snazy back to back on M8.
Vico Pink up against CZB Nathan in the Grand Glacier. Haven't seen too many engagements since the first matches around here. But it looks like Vico and Pink, they want to get those tags. They want that damage. But if the zone closes, they might be forced to move a little bit.
And this is a team I felt like we were going to definitely see at the top of the leaderboard, especially with how insanely consistent they've been. Not just the qualifiers weeks 1 and 2, but how insanely they were consistent throughout the semifinals as well. I didn't really see them having as many struggles as they had. Third place, 7 elims was their best game, and they kind of fell down the ladder from there. But if a team, any team, can take fire late in the final day of today and kind of start that momentum for tomorrow, it is going to be Pink and Vico.
Panzer trying to hit some shots onto Finn. Know about Halo, but nothing connecting just yet. And one player down is going to be forced to go deeper and deeper into Storm. As now the Porta Party is going to take him back in.
I'm excited to see a little bit more of this early game from Swizzy and Vaniac. Kind of see what they're doing. You see them kind of leaving Mount Olympus, which means they had an early rotation out of Brawler Battlegrounds. Throughout the day, you have seen almost a must carry out of this team and some others of the Wings of Icarus. And then they kind of have the Flowberry Fizz and the Legendary Banana to kind of round it out. And the Flowberry Fizz gives them 2 options. You use it regularly, as normally everybody does, or you combine it with the Wings of Icarus to cover more ground much quicker.
Marius left as a solo once again. Being forced to do anything he can. 169 effective HP and shield up against Cheap and Turtle. But I got faith in Marius here. I'll keep it a buck, Jacob. I think he can make it happen. They are in 12th place on the leaderboard. Turtle and Sheep being in 34th. You can tell they're almost a little scared here to go in, even though they know it's a solo. Marius connect the snipe, though. Unable to.
It's almost like going to be a must for him to connect something if he's looking to continue to try to stay alive. Sooner or later, he's going to run out of those dashes. Finally peeking back, misses that one on the Turtle. He's getting ever so much closer as he changes directions very, very quickly, trying to keep his opponents on their toes. Back into the dashes, dips a toe in, and this is going to be his biggest chance to try to create as much distance as possible. Last dash going to be out. Marius, he's doing a good job of creating so much space. I got to give him so much credit for it.
The hunt is going to continue, Jacob. He's not done yet. The mission isn't over. He starts swimming further and further away. This is going to be a long run. I mean, either he hits an insane snipe, or eventually they're going to catch up, and they're going to have to take that fight.
It's almost like they know where players that land the Underworld commonly position themselves at. Because even though Marius did a huge cut towards the left, Cheeps and Turtle following him on that same cut towards the left. And I think they lost him. I think they finally lost him. Don't know exactly where he's at. You see Marius in the minimap, just north of the Underworld, has finally successfully escaped Turtle and Cheeps.
Someone who might be looking to escape shortly. The Buell has lost Relvis. Or Relvis, sorry. So we'll have to see how the escape continues.
It's only really a question of, does he have the reboot card? He did a good job of creating a space, creating distance. But if he doesn't have the reboot card, he's going to have to backtrack, go in that position. And even see just southeast of where he's kind of running to, that little gas station that is parked by. Actually, I do believe that's the bunker. Excuse me there. And with the bunkers opening up, he can rotate in this direction, kind of spot, get information. And he's hoping that a lot of these teams that are positioned towards the north, or anybody for that matter, will try to contest a bunker, so that makes an easy rotation for him to a reboot van.
This is a great opportunity for duos that want to do a bit of damage. The Buell, though, seems like he's interested. Has he seen something? Does he know? The Trexer is right there as the builds start coming through. He hears the footsteps now. The movement. as it's turned into a box fight.
He almost gets boxed up, path cut off, shield no more. He does have some left in the inventory. It's just about if he has the timing and the space to try to disengage from this opponent, and it does look like they're ready to go on the chase themselves. He finally makes it to get a couple more dashes, but so do his opponents. Dancing all around, dropped to just 13 HP, really not given an opportunity to try to survive, trying to create space. Eventually, he goes down to Trexer and Silly Seb. Forzen, they all enter the mix, and that's the thing. You hear the noise, you hear a lot of the fights, and you attempt to try to third party it.
Yeah, the commotion comes through, and it's an opportunity for the other duos in the surrounding area. Dexy Eclipse raining from above with that water-bending Mythic onto Pixie and Walks, which are fully boxed up here with, it seems to be no interest of anything except for maybe a potential knockdown as I hear the shots coming through. They might want to break down these builds. Eclipse Dexy aware of this, popping a Flowberry to evade that fall damage. It looks like one more build needs to be edited here.
Peut mettre des sacrés dégâts avec
Quickly protecting themselves as well. Pixie doing the right thing of creating space between him and the falling players. That achieves the high ground positioning for them, and they're ready to go ahead and continue to put that pressure down. But you see how careful they're actually being. Instead of entering into the fight, they're taking it layer by layer, piece by piece. And as Dexy and Eclipse fall down, Pixie and Walks slow to follow.
Looks like they want to continue though. Even though they did take height here, they're still looking for angles, still looking for shots. They know how important it could be, especially later on in this match. There's more than enough ammunition to spare. They're going to continue to expect anything else.
Yeah, and I was going to say, the further down they go, you're almost trapping yourself with only one exit plan. And Dexy and Eclipse quickly find that porta potty to try to loop and exit out of there, and then almost gives them a free rotation side of the mountain. They're also going to get a chance to get those underworld dashes, so I think that's going to be a successful disengage out of that situation.
Interesting structure has been built here at Lavish. Shows how many spare materials there might be. As Noms is just going to be maybe taking a nap here as he waits for his opponents to leave and even the zones to pull further away.
Just Nefrizzi and Halley, they're the ones that position just right outside. You see Axe Force in the distance along with his teammate. A lot of time to wait, especially since the zone is kind of in that position. So only hope he has currently have the reboot card. As we take a look, another rotation from Queasy and Thomas. Game after game, they find themselves deep into the zone, trying to rotate on and out, scrabbing together to get any fallen loot. As you see, using the bandages, then the med kit. Just trying to get anything in your inventory that you can get your hands on. You see the foraged fruits and vegetables probably going to be next. Because right now they're separated Reckless Railways trying to get together some loot. CZB and possibly Nathan as well.
C'est bon pour Camille ici de remonter là.
If they don't catch him.
Vanek qui joue drapeau.
In first place, now also going to be the first duo to claim the Rift Island. A little extra loot, nice positioning. You can even see taking some tags through that bush bomb.
Crac. C'est Vanek, ça met des bons dégâts sur Lidon.
Yeah.
I wonder, like, do you think they have the medallion, or do you think they're one of those teams that drop the medallion because they don't think it really does enough? It gives you extra damage for the scoped weapons, but I don't think it really does a ton of damage. So you think they're one of the teams that carry the medallion? Do you think they leave the medallion because they don't want their position to be known?
I wonder if it depends. I wonder if it's like, you know, what do we feel in this game? Are we going to just play a bit more aggressive? Doesn't matter if we have the medallion, or maybe want to do a little sneaky, uncongested rotate. They can kind of decide, choose to their liking on how the match is looking. Camiseti, 531 damage above the threshold currently with that one elimination. They will combo the Flowberry Fizz plus a launch pad. They're now most likely pick the ideal rotate where they don't run into a lot of players as they have the freedom to do so.
Yeah, I expect them to hit one more launch pad along the way. It's like that little mountain just above towards the right side, but you see them. Something they used in the last game as well. They used the Flowberry Fizz, the late launch pads, because they are contested and have options around them to get that early surge. They're not looking for 500 right out of the gates. They're just looking for about 100, 200 surge so they can make rotations just like this. But as we tune in, a team that's finding those struggles. Trulex Chicho, 170 points, but once again separated as a solo.
this is dangerous. He is gonna choose to disengage with the dashes, but rebooting this late in the match is incredibly difficult, so this might just be another solo game.
C'est compliqué.
We've seen Chicho do it in game 1. Truelex do it last weekend, but now it's just a whole different situation. Feeling the pressure. So many angles.
Il est mort.
Now they're just trying to break into the box. 1 HP. Pop the legendary banana. Not enough. Reason is going to be the one to take him down, but he was solo. Takada, how did Truelex go down? Well, it was a well-placed snipe by Kerwa.
What a way to go down. Noms, remember, he was the one just crouching behind a box at Lavish Lair, waiting for the zone to pull away, and now he's used that as his chance to make his way on in. He has a good amount of loot alongside his materials, so if he doesn't get spotted here, he should just be able to keep sneaking his way into zone.
Getting as much information as possible. I think that team might have a little bit of inkling that somebody is floating around, especially little audio cues like that. Mappy and Kiro might not necessarily know that Noms is a solo, and you see him double checking, triple checking, peeking towards the outside. Anybody else slow to rotate in? And you almost have to take those extra couple seconds to be careful like that, because you don't have your teammate, those extra set of eyes. At least for now, as Noms does look like to have his eye on a possible reboot opportunity at one of these split areas, but so many other teams, 2 to be exact, have noticed him moving in that direction as a solo.
That was a good crouch there to get a bit of vision, but look, it's Fortnite and his duo partner, Seb, that are going to be looking to capitalize on the situation, but Noms quickly to build up and say, look, if you want to take this battle, I'm going to make it take a long time for you, so you better start running away.
And this is only just going to help Noms, if he can come out on top of the fight, disengage or not, because now you're just building up his Storm Surge damage. You could easily just let him kind of get taken out by the zone altogether. Silly Seb on the other side. Noms trying to break into the box. This is where you have that 1v1 separation, but finally, in comes Forzen, disrupting the fight yet again, trying to save Silly Seb, who actually got knocked.
Seb, I think, even just fell down, twisted his ankles there on the ground to get knocked, but at least his duo partner cleaned it up. Swizzy Vanyak, both players still up now. Shots trying to come through, but nothing big connected once again. Opponents getting kicked by Storm Surge. They do not want to let them do damage as they're already above. It's almost just a waiting game here.
Yeah, may not necessarily know that those players are suffering the Storm Surge up until now, where shields get cracked just like that. Now they know their opponents are weak. Either taking damage from outside, but even they can notice no other shots pouring in, so it has to be Storm Surge. And you can see why they're playing very, very slowly, very calculated, knowing that team is taking damage. Eventually, they're going to have to push into Vanyak and Swizzy, and it's going to be a trap waiting for him.
Vanyak, il met des bons dégâts.
It's a tough spot to be in. Making a comeback from that situation is almost impossible, but if anyone's going to do it, it's duos that have qualified to the grand finals. But with Swizzy and Vanyak being on the other end of that doorway, just a couple shots are going to need to be landed here.
Just great teamwork for them. Swizzy's just spraying one side of the build, forcing them to hold their position, hold their cover, while Vanyak is playing up, playing aggressive, making sure that they can't disengage either. Now that they got some shots when it came to that Storm Surge, 324, they instantly start their rotation out. They combine the Flowberry Fizz and the Wings of Icarus. If we've seen it go so well up until this point. Those are fine examples of what happens when you get caught off guard traveling through the sky.
A lot of materials have been forced.
Sur 3 secondes, il s'est fait enlever 120 HP.
They will be able to recuperate what they lost, but might lead to a earlier refresh. Walks Pixie though. Also got themselves in a little bit of engagement, but it looks like they might have just been the duo that came out on top. Nice little knock came through. And Walks and Pixie continuing now still below.
And they spotted out Cammy, Seti over on the side, and it's almost an isolated fight. There is a couple of teams positioned just high up on that hill, but that's not going to stop Walks and Pixie because they have no other choice. Their hand is being forced by Storm Surge. A blessing for Seti and Cammy because they're well above, and with a couple of shots, with a couple of tags from Storm Surge, they are huge leaders here in this one particular fight.
Oh, nice shots landed by Seti and Cammy to drop down Pixie. Now 344 above. Quick little refresh on a bit of the loot and materials. Walks left alone. Are they going to continue to apply that pressure, though? He's still getting ticked by Surge. They're going to hear the crack come through, knowing that he's low. But so far, they're just taking shots from afar. No push coming through yet.
And just continuously putting the pressure. And what that's doing right now is forcing Wox to potentially make a mistake. And the more pressure they put on, it kind of displaces Wox in different boxes, different elevations. So that's where they're hoping things do slip up. City just diving a little bit into the storm, but that's just because they want to make that quick and easy rotation where virtually nobody has yet to make their journey on over there, except for the ones that have been blessed the zone.
Oh, look at that, though. Sky and Scroll. They're back in business, but with no shield. They need to make some sort of miracle happen here. They trail behind, try and drop right into a duo, but it might just lead to their demise as both players have gone down.
Yeah, sometimes it looks like it's just clear sailing ahead. You can start to pounce, but just that additional angle, that 1 second lapse of judgment, really costs you in the end. And this is why it's important. You know, no matter how much pressure they went through, Vaniac and Swizzy, they're just continuously taking it one step at a time, and they immediately push forward and then find themselves a blessing. Combeck's going to go down, 348, not much for the damage in the threshold, but they still have another team in their line of sights that's beginning to take the focus, and you can see a lot of the calculations going down as we're speaking to whether do they go for it, do they not go for it. Since they have the front side of zone, I think they're going to choose the easier, the less resistant path.
Nice way to slide on into that gift. You can see up above, it's Vexy for Harwa, who might just be able to maintain height here. Good zone close on that side, though. I'm trying to calculate it.
Wow.
Malabuka left alone, but with that loadout, Jacob, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a similar clutch to what we saw Cammy do not too long ago.
This is going to be a great opportunity if you're Swizzy and Vaniac to really create such a huge gap between you and the rest of the playing field. Yes, you have Seti, Cammy, Queasy, Thomas waiting in 4th and 5th place. Over a 120-point deficit before they catch up. Tace and Veno landing a couple good shots to get them 151 above the damage threshold. It's one of the things I feel like have been ailing them from time to time up to this position of the game. They're down on Surge, forced to fight. So as long as they stay ahead of the curve in this game, I think they'll be well off.
Queasy, nice quick tag in the air. Thomas HD has to be careful. He's been knocked down. Now left alone as paint gets cracked. Is he going to choose to play it slow here? Only 8 builds for Queasy. He really needs to find a refresh here.
Yeah, I think with Thomas going down, he has no choice but to play a little bit more passive, even though he landed that good shot onto Pink, dropping the shields, dropping the HP. And at least they got themselves a little bit of a crevice that they can hang on to, safe from the zone while they heal up and kind of plan their next rotation, which seemingly for everybody get a pretty easy pull, which means it's going to be very, very chaotic for most as they finally pick the perfect time to try to rotate out.
Cammy Seti looking to take some shots before rotation. I believe they have more than enough damage, so right now it's all just extra. As players plan their rotate. Zone starts closing now. Vico, Pink continue ahead. They have healed up now. Forced to use quite a bit of their Glow Fizz, but as they're grouped up, they're ready now to do more damage.
Yeah, this is one of the most consistent teams for a reason. They know how to get out of tough spots when it calls for it. Similar to Malabuka and Mustache in that last major. They put the uncontested contested to rest as they win it all while being contested. But Pink goes down. Vico by himself. Huge elimination can be found onto Mappy. Get credit for those points and even more for the placements as his team is fully taken down. But Vico, 163 damage above the threshold. Only has bandages to his name to recover some of that HP. He's flying by, almost smooth sailing up until then to try to find his way to the front side of the zone.
Cracked down to 11. Forced to pop the bandages now. Still has a bow berry, so we can recuperate a bit of that shield, but he needs time. And with all the duos surrounding him, they're not giving him that time.
Just a moment to breathe is all he really needs. Same for Vaniac, who loses Swizzy and loses himself in the mix. First place is down, and it's really up to Queasy here. He's at the top of the leaderboard for players still left alive to really try to close that gap, but he needs to go big. He needs to start building momentum in his side. It's going to be virtually impossible with no builds.
No builds, but he has faith. It's Queasy we're talking about here. Eclipse, Dexy are going to be the ones that have claimed height. Vortex and Volko doing a good job of staying ahead and claiming low. Malabuka still up and running strong, 165 above, doing a good amount of damage as well as he gets ahead with the dash.
Yeah, quickly utilizing that medallion time and time again. That way doesn't take too much damage. Almost threads the needle with a snipe right there. But Malabuka's persistence. At first you don't succeed, you try again. Run to the backside of the zone, finding only one bandage. But it was a sacrifice that was well worth making for Malabuka as he quickly finds himself inside of the zone in safety.
Queasy taking down Tayson. Mano now left alone as Queasy goes down. Cammy, once again, as well as a solo, looking to clutch it up.
Yeah, Cammy's already been in this situation once today, and he's ready for a tough task to try to pull through one more time with a good amount of points to keep him and Seti's position on that leaderboard intact. You can see him trying to calculate, playing careful, along with Teeny, Trap, chopping down the high ground, fighting for themselves. Dexy, Eclipse, everything goes crashing down. That opportunity slipped through Teeny's fingers, and him and Trap come crumbling down to the mid layer.
They said, you took us on height game 1. We're looking to claim our spot once again. Malabuka, though, one shot away from taking out Giros. He does it. Gets the non-claims the Elim as well now. Materials have been recuperated, but there's duos in sight. He has to be careful.
Quick thinking to dash inside of the zone to land the shot that mattered. He could only take a few ticks to the storm, and he made it work. His Cammy now finally up for the challenge. Shari's the way you want to take him down. Multiple solos still scrounging around, but a couple of them were instantly taken down by Vocal and Vortexers.
Picked off one by one as Eclipse and Dexy once again have reclaimed the high ground, but they're not looking healthy. Eclipse just a sliver of HP. Meanwhile, Volko, Vortexers looking very healthy.
And they were one of the strong teams, Mini Miner's favorites, but instantly the curse happens. They go down. One's left with just a sliver of HP, trying to survive the onslaught from Velry and Firehunter as they continue to smoothly move through this endgame as they go down to the ultimate low ground and bring it down to a final 2v2. Dexy and Eclipse, Velry and Firehunter.
Gotta farm the tree. They have barely no mats down below. Up height, dropping down, shots connecting. Dexy Eclipse goes down. It's all up to Dexy now, the 1 versus 2. Can he land his shots? He cannot, as Velry and Firehunter take it home.
And that is a prime example. Dexy and Eclipse trying to hold on the high ground, zone after zone after zone. They ran out of materials, and eventually Firehunter and Velry just chopped them down in the palm of the hands, serving up a victory royale on the silver platter.
They were looking so healthy up on the high ground, but Chapantini said, we want a piece of that pie. The battle broke out, and it led to the duo up on height, Dexy and Eclipse, being forced to pop as many heals as possible, but they were just not able to hit those crucial shots in the last moments.
Yeah, and just you see them separated, falling down one after the next. Eclipse was easy, they took him down, and eventually the Spray taking down his teammate as well. Just a huge victory royale for Firehunter and Velry, starting to build that confidence before the day is over.
Just one more game to be played out today, but we have to see how that's shaken up the leaderboard. So let's head over to the analyst desk and see what they've got for us.
Thank you very much. What a tense victory royale at the end there. High ground versus low ground. But as it has been for the last few games, in fact, I think all of the games tonight, boys, high ground had it in the bag for Firehunter and Velry 11.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't have it in the bag, right? It was Dexy and Eclipse on high ground, right? They were the ones
that's true.
Yeah, they messed it up. No worry, Frankie, no one noticed. Firehunter and Velry, though. Firehunter, a very experienced player who's been competing at the highest level of Fortnite for quite a long time. And this season with Velry, you know, they've not necessarily been making waves, Mini, but, you know, they pack a punch here and there. And I think in this game, they showed sort of on those mid and low ground layers that they can be composed even through all the chaos. And in those final moments, again, Zone pulling down the hill, Dexy and Eclipse running low on mats, like they hit the shots they needed to, and, you know, they win the game as a result of it.
Yeah, I was looking back at some of their placements, and they really haven't had the best season at all. I was looking back, I don't think they've actually earned together this season before. Now, obviously, in grand finals, their best placement, I think, 8th in the qualifier 2 round 4. So it hasn't been their starring season, let's just say. Of course, they played with different partners last season, but it's nice to see them kind of coming out of their shell a little bit here in the grand finals. I think they're a team that kind of have a lot to do in terms of Storm Surge with their drop spot, kind of landing in the middle of nowhere, no man's land almost between sort of Grimgate and the Lavish Lair area. So I'm not sure how that's working out for them. Maybe not so much, but clearly got so much talent, particularly from that low ground. They played it really well.
It's really interesting to see Dexing Eclipse asserting themselves on the high ground to get that second place. I'm going to get it right this time, boys, and everyone watching, I will try. Been a long evening, very hot in here. So I'm wondering why they were able to hold it on for so long. Was it the fact that the usual duos who would take that position were left solo early in the game, Levin?
Yeah, there were a bunch of sort of those top big hitting hype players who just didn't have enough in the tank come end game, and Dexy and Eclipse are a team we know can do it, right? In the semi-finals, right? The famous game where Dexy called, hey, look, we're winning game 3, and they do it. We know they can play from high. They did it when they won that game in semis, and so again, wasn't too surprised to see them up there. The big thing though with them being up there was that they played it for so long with just bare minimum mats. Like they were up there for a while with nothing, and that's a credit to them that they were able to hold on. Maybe you look at the rest of the lobby and go, come on, somebody should have looked up and then figured out that those guys had nothing to work with. But at the end of the day, you can't complain. You take the second place.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, they had a good game on height there. They won on height in the semi-finals as well. They're a team that do like to go for it. I think it's difficult for them to be the team that are going to take it off of everyone else, but they're a team that will go for it if it is almost gifted to them. They had a really good grand finals last season as well for a team that we don't expect to do too well. They came 14th. I'm pretty sure I remember them winning a game on height there as well. So I think this is a duo that kind of have gone under the radar in terms of height teams because they're not the ones that are going to be dominating it, asserting it every single game. But as I said, I think they definitely can do it when they get given it, and they're a team that can hold it well.
Can I mention a duo I feel like have gone under the radar so far, even though they're not really under the radar because they won the first major? It's Mersash and Malibuka, boys. Because I was impressed. I think Malibuka clutched 5th position in that last game as a solo. I don't know how it's done for them. In fact, we can actually see what it's done for them. It's taken them up 7 places to 9th place. So maybe we're going to see a day 2 or even a game 6 comeback for this duo 11.
I mean, yeah, it's like I said last game, they will have pop-off games. And especially come tomorrow where those pop-off games are even more valuable, they will just fly up the leaderboards. It's one of those things with Malibuka and Mustache. I think the benefit for them is, yes, sure, there might be concerns of what happens day 2 and more teams sort of try contest. They've not really struggled being contested today at Grimgate the way they did at some points in the semis, right? They seem to be handling people being there with relative ease. So again, I think if they can start to figure out the surge problems, which I'm sure they will as the games progress, there's no doubt in my mind that they will have potential to have more of these big moments, whether they be clutches or big duo games where they pop off together.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, if they do manage to get that Grimgate coin and that Grimgate shotgun tomorrow, I think it plays into their favor. Teams being a little bit more aggressive, trying to come to them for this damage because they're such a good fighting team, and I think they just struggled so far this season, as we're seeing a little bit today, particularly in the first half of the day, just to go out and find that Storm Surge for themselves. It's always going to be beneficial if it comes to them.
Also, another jury that seemed to benefit from our 2nd and 3rd place, Cringe and Noms and Javiul and Relvis going down early, was quite possibly Chapantini. They've gone up so many places. They're actually on the first page now. Meanwhile, Vico and Ping are continuing to struggle, unfortunately. Snazy and Podesai also may be lacking in some consistency. For you, though, looking at this leaderboard, Minnie, which name is surprising you for all the right or wrong reasons?
I think Swizzy and Vanya. I think their consistency just throughout the entire day so far has been really, really impressive. Of course, we saw them get that win. We saw them get 2 wins, of course, as well, right, today. So it's like, this is a team that I think are just exceeding all of my expectations. I spoke about them at the beginning of the show after the game number 1. I was like, this is a very good fighting team. Are they going to be able to continue that momentum with the zones, with all the different spanners that could be thrown in the works? And they are answering all of those questions. They are playing absolutely out of their mind right now. And I'm just intrigued to see if they can go the distance. Can they go all 12 games?
Well, we've only got time for one more game tonight, Mini Mine. I'm afraid you're going to have to hold your horses because the second 6 of games that you're clearly begging for will be taking place tomorrow. So let's kick off the final game of day number 1 with Takata and Jake.
I cannot believe this is already the final game of the day. I have so much energy, Takata. I can even do 6 more already here today. Let's just finish out the grand finals. But honestly, it's going to be a good refresher. No matter what happens here in game 6, all of these teams get the rest of the day off. They can VOD review, they can fix the mistakes, or they can kind of expand on a lot of the successes they've had today.
that's the crucial part, right? Seeing kind of what you can change up in that little time frame you have between today and tomorrow. We talked about it earlier. Tomorrow there's a point multiplier, so the duos competing will get more points just from elims and placements. But the battle bus is ready. Let's get into the last game of the day.
I love the way you're mentioning that point multiplier for tomorrow. So no matter if you're about 60 points ahead of second place, 100 points or more away from everybody else, things can change in the blink of an eye for Swizzy and Vanyak. So it's very, very important. No matter how far ahead they are in game 5 going into the last and final game, they still need to perform at the top of their game because you don't want to let anything go down to chance tomorrow.
Sky Scroll. It's almost, it's on a 50-50, but this is one of the most quick engagements we've seen throughout the day. It's instant action right off the drop. This guy's choosing carefully what angles he looks to pursue.
Taking his time. Slowly but surely dropping down more and more, and because they're just dropping down from above, they're giving them almost an easy path to follow. First shots in, but unfortunately enough, they're able to get the shields off just in time, and they're keep popping that Flowberry Fizz. That was a great opportunity for Scry. Unfortunately, him and Scroll are just not able to really capitalize on it just yet.
Yeah, 24 damage. Did not get as much damage as he would have liked from that initial shotgun shot. So now they're just going to go back to looting and take this engagement later.
Yeah, I thought I saw on the feed that Cringe and Jake Buka actually went down earlier than we would think, and it's by a duo that you wouldn't guess because they're no longer split dropping at that Lavish layer. They try to take the challenge to Trulex and Chicho. Unfortunately enough, it's going to be the same fate, and a big start for Trulex and Chicho.
They shut them down quickly. Actually, last game we talked about it. You know, when you keep getting elimed off spawn, how long is it going to take until you try and switch it up? Looks like 5 games was the number for that. In the 6th game, they decided to change it, but did not go their way. Good news is now they'll have a bit more time to kind of pick their right path for tomorrow. But Chicho and Trulex, they might not be done yet.
Not just yet, but we might not even see the Thunderbolt of Zeus in the distance. They do have the Flowberry Fizz, so not really worried about taking fall damages. Try to create some separation between them and Silly Seb and Forzen. He was trying to sneak up and take advantage of a third-party opportunity. But Trulex and Chicho, they're not going to fall for that bait.
I mean, they're happy with those 2 elims already off the start. They don't need much more. They just want to start farming up, recuperate their mats, and get more loot. So they will continue just making their way more towards the center.
Yeah, kind of moving on over towards Reckless Railways is what it seemed like there for a moment. Reason and Vidil just outside of Mount Olympus. You kind of see their inventory as well. Not necessarily the most heals in the world, but they're definitely setting themselves up where they can kind of contest the bunker like we've seen them in some of the earlier games going up against Queasy and Thomas. Just all depend if that bunker is going to spawn in, because there's 9 different bunkers on the map and only 6 of them actually do spawn in.
You can see though, Reason and Vidil are just split up, taking their own paths here, whether it be looting. I assume it's looting. I was going to say maybe Vidil is just looking for some tags, but both making sure they maximize their efficiency of the early game route. Queasy Thomas, trying to see if something changed up here at Mount Olympus. I don't see any elims on Queasy Thomas. I see 1 duo, but I wonder if the other one switched locations.
I feel like a couple of those early games have really forced a huge thought process around a lot of the duos landing towards Mount Olympus. How important is it to really kind of 50-50 fight it all out right out of the gates, especially in game 6 where you see yourself on the leaderboard and it might not be where you want it to be or even expected, so you almost want to change that early, a game before tomorrow, and start to plan something else underneath their sleeve. As Pink and Vico look like to be the aggressors here against Blaha and Comic. Pink, just a little bit of damage, forced further and further back before he's actually dropped down altogether.
Uh-oh, gotta be careful now, Pink. Forced to make a clutch happen. The 1v2, he might just be him. Combeck full boxed up now, but Vico can just not land his shots here. He needs to connect if he wants to win the 1 versus 2.
Hey, I feel like if anybody's made for something like this, Could be either one of these two teams on the duo. You see the Flowberry Fizz, Legendary Banana. He's just trying to cover as much distance as quickly as he can to try to disengage out of the spot. He could choose to try to continue to go up that mountain. There is a launch pad up there. He can make it towards the other side. But he is just getting tagged up left and right. The Flowberry Fizz, the same thing he's using to try to escape is the same thing that's giving that line of sight on over to Blaha and Convec.
Continue to build up, increase that line of sight onto Vico, but it looks like he might have just made it out, and I don't think the pursuit is worth it any longer. Or is he gonna actually take the launch pad? No way, right? No way they chase up that deep in the storm.
Just say nah, but...
Or do they?
We'll find out later on this episode of FNCS. But
Marius now.
Yep. I like to see them both alive.
Yeah, that was what I was gonna say. It's duo partners up, so this is an improvement from the previous matches. Hopefully, though, they can keep that improvement going and pick up a couple elips.
It does look like they eyed Zohan and Trash. It's just a matter of, did they see them back? Did they see Marius kind of hunkered down through some of the builds? Whether you see him or not, position is going to be known as he gets tagged up, trying to run away. Trash actually takes so much damage thanks to the backup of Sanguild, who drops the shields altogether. And this is where they're going to get the green light to go. Try to box fight this and get the early Storm Surge damage and even some eliminations, but they have to be careful. Third party is closing in on the distance, which doesn't fare well for Marius and Sanguild. But as soon as I say it, they saw them just over that cover. Marius trying to back down and get underneath the safety, but he's just so separated from his duo currently.
Yeah, he gets cracked as well. Good news is the third party has come to save the day for Marius and Sanguild as he gets a bit of time now to recuperate all that shield he'd lost. Almost found an opportunity, but this has just turned into a 2v2v2.
Yeah, just a lot of commotion going down. You really have to pick and choose, and there's even a fourth team, a fifth team entering into the mix, going in this direction. I think Glebshy and Trexer give a huge distraction for Trash and Zohan to just disengage on out. You see Dexy and Eclipse over from Rebel's Roost. They didn't get the damage they wanted off of spawn, so a lot of these teams, as they switch up their strategies, their drop spots, and their overall loot path, is forcing other teams to switch it up as well if they want that same surge.
It was almost looking like Turtle Wars back with the amount of duos that were boxed up with each other fighting. Noms, Deja Vu, I've seen him crouch behind this box before. Is that a piano, you think, box? Either way, it's that sneak attack that he's looking for.
Play us a song, Noms. Maybe a couch dresser.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe a couch.
You know, you got to give Noms and Cringe so much credit in the world, because that requires a ton of patience just to be able to sit there, not get overzealous, not just shoot some shots just to shoot some shots, knowing that you're going to get very minimal or maybe even no damage at all. But as soon as they kind of know exactly where their opponent's at, you see Cringe and Noms once again just kind of changing their locations. They don't want their opponents to know exactly where they're attacking from at any moment, and that allows for free shots like that to land.
Nice connection, as now Cringe does not want to fully commit. As all he might just need are a few tags, but with the counter attack coming through, Cringe getting cracked, Noms now gonna be forced to hold off a little longer.
It's the constant separation between the two. It's not costing them a lot, but definitely putting them on the back foot in more of a defensive position, which is not necessarily what we've seen from this duo, especially from their contested drop to start the day. They're one of those teams that they like to get the first shot. They'd like to start the fight with some damage, and then they kind of go from there.
They've actually been one of the duos that's most likely to land the first shot in their engagement, so could be a reason to their success in all of these fights. Sky and Scroll standing quite strong so far, but like we mentioned earlier, day 2 is where it gets even more intense with the multiplier on the amount of points you get throughout the games. So right now it's kind of setting the stage for what's to come.
I think a win here for them, depending on obviously who finishes second, third, and so on. But a win here with a couple eliminations, I think will at least give them a 1-game lead going into tomorrow's format. Obviously, it depends on how many eliminations, you know, double digits plus a win that you get in game 1. But I think they just need to kind of set themselves up, finish off the day strong. Because so far, every single game they've had but one has been in the top 10, including 2 first-place finishes.
The Buell having lost Relvis though. And being so far in zone with the duo close by could lead to danger. It really depends how long he takes here.
And the thing that only worries me isn't necessarily how long he takes, but just the lack of heals that are all around. He's forced to get the fruits, the vegetables, the cabbage, the corn, anything that he can get his hands on for just small amounts of HP. So even if he does have the reboot carb, he almost has to go and travel into zone to get the reboot because he realistically won't be able to out-heal it. And kind of where he's going right now is just the top of the launch pad, Flowberry Fizz. That's going to give him a huge amount of information high in the sky. That way he can pick the reboot he wants to get his teammate back.
Once again, taking a look at Noms and Cringe. Just choosing to refarm up as they wait. There is a duo below them. There are duos around them. But they know that they could be hiding just like Dexy is, and it's not really worth it to drop down below.
And this is like a huge switch up from the last time we saw Cringe and Noms. They were more towards Lavish Layer, finding a whole different team. And now they just continue to rotate around the map, find opportunity after opportunity before finally disengaging out of Rebel Boost. But the zone is over in this direction, so they do have all the time in the world to pick where exactly they want to position themselves before it all comes to an end.
We'll see what they're capable of. The Buell, though, like we said, had that duo close by. It looks like they found each other. But just with that cabbage, sliver of HP has made it. Issue is, no more fruits to work with. You can see the desperation here. He needs to find a med kit, a banana, something to get him a bit of HP or he's done for.
Yeah, this is maybe his kind of last hope. Moving on over in this direction. Bandages, apples, bananas. And he's really not finding anything. He finds the water bending ability, and this is where the Buell's time and luck has run out in our 6th and final game of the day.
Oh, there's a medkit under the cone. No! A tragedy coming to an end, but on the other hand, Noms and Cringe already taken down one. Clips being the other one that's left as a solo, trying to make his way through the window, but how long will he be able to run away as Noms continues his pursuit? Cringe and Noms land the opening shot 87% of the time in their engagements today. So they are a very scary duo to go up against.
Mike, is he going to do it? Is he going to take the porta potty? I know he's trying to at least cut off an exit. And even though this wasn't the original team that they were fighting over towards Lavish Layer, Dexy and Eclipse did move over in the direction of Lavish Layer. My biggest assumption is possibly trying to get Storm Surge for themselves, which caught the attention of Crimson Noms. And now you can see why they're getting so aggressive, but another team enters the mix. That's Gloveshy, that's Trexer, causing a little bit of a distraction, which is a huge blessing in disguise for Dexy and Eclipse.
Do they need it, though? They've already done so much damage. But they have to decide now, is it worth it to take on a full 2v2 without having the upper hand in the engagement? I don't think it is as they try and disengage.
You see that over towards Rebels on the left? On the west? Underworld Medallion has been dropped. Somebody's trying to play sneaky around the Underworld to either get a teammate back or try to get some free Storm Surge. Interesting decision.
Play. For Abonne and Fastroki. 108. Huge shot onto Tayson. Taking out the duo.
Yeah, that's not good for last game efforts coming out of Veno and Tayson. They started this game 6 in around 11th place. Let's see where they fall after it's over. And for Veno and Tayson, they're one of the teams. You know, you heard Minnie, Frankie, Levin talking about it. When do you push that panic button? We'll wait to see after this when they break it down to see if now is going to be that moment. 6 games and a whole different format in terms of point totals. If you come prepared tomorrow, you can really take over the competition by storm, as long as Vaniac and Swizz don't begin to run away with it in the final game.
Take it by force, in the words of Taco. Who will be the duo that does it, though? It's Cammy and Seti. We've seen this time and time again throughout the day, kind of taking slower rotations through the zone after already having secured enough damage to kind of get through those initial zones. So they kind of pick and choose more of a safer rotation and not put themselves in danger beforehand.
I think Seti and Cammy kind of known for the slow style gameplay. In the end game, they begin to pick it up where they historically find the majority of their eliminations. Vaniac and Swizzy just on the edge of the zone, not too far for them to rotate. They're just trying to peek back and see what other players are going to be left behind. They see the reboot coming off. They saw somebody else rotating to probably stop the reboot. So they know at least 4 players make it 3 now, with one of them getting taken down over on that side of the map.
Be careful though, Cringe and Noms from crouching to aggression. Might have just caught a player off guard. Eclipse once again. Left to run away. With the shots coming through from the SMG, now actually deciding to go all the way in Storm. They want to clean this up.
Yeah, and they have that underworld loot as well. We saw it get dropped on the side of the map. One team's trash is another team's treasure, and with how aggressive Cringe of Noms have been so far on the day today, that underworld medallion is going to be a huge pick-me-up, especially in some of those tight spots to where you might not have heals, but a siphon will do just right.
Thomas HD Queasy. I've been waiting for a big pop-off game from this duo, Jacob. And with the max materials, solid loadout, 215 above, water bending mythic, I just might think this could be the game.
I agree as well. They've been having a pretty solid day so far. I wouldn't say it's anything to brag about considering both of these players' history, but I like the way you mentioned all they need is one pop-off game, and they're due for one, and that one pop-off game would surely boost them up the leaderboards to close out the day here today. And you can see their damage, 363. Even though they're rotating deep and slow from the zone like they have in some of these games so far, it's almost a mirror to when they placed 5th with those 4 eliminations in Game 3, to where they had all that surge and they didn't have to worry about it as soon as they made their way there. And now they're going to get blessed. They're on the side of the Rift Island, which means there's going to be a lot of opportunity to take those rifts, which will ease a lot of the pressure off of their rotation as well.
But they also got to be careful with the duos looking back at the zone from the Rift Island. Vaniac, though, has lost Swizzy. Got the 2 eliminations, but with the pressure from the surrounding areas, they're going to have to overbuild here. They do have the materials to do so from those elims, so now hopefully he can pick Swizzy back up.
Yeah, only if they knew Swizzy and Vaniac went down, probably been a good opportunity to try to end the run there, close the gap or stop it from spreading to end this day, and that's going to be a huge saver right there. If we look back at moments, if this point spread gets higher than the current total of 54, if we look at times like this, to where Vaniac was once again able to save the day, pick up Swizzy, get him back into the game, and you can see their damage just before Storm Surge turns off, 250 plus above that threshold. There's going to be very little for this team to worry about.
Yeah, they have that full Wings of Icarus, so they can continue with these rotations just like you're seeing on the screen here. Vaniac from the replay, great way to get at both opponents while still having pressure applied from all angles.
Yeah, they might have got the Olympus medallion as well, so they're going to get a little bit of a speed boost. Kind of help them, or at least one of them is. We'll kind of see who has it here in a moment, but the Wings of Icarus is going to be the ones coming out. Oh, a nice little hip fire there with the Zeus Mythic DMR. Kind of helping them a ton when it comes to that Storm Surge, because they have fallen just above 100, and you can see how active they're getting, finding the opportunities. They're going up, down, when it comes to that threshold.
Range Noms going to continue following Karmi and his duo into zone here. They are 28 below, so they can use this as an opportunity to potentially do a bit of damage onto them. Karmi has been knocked. That's an opportunity right there. Finish off the knock. There it is. From 72 below to 1 above. But for how long?
I wouldn't think I'm too worried here, because if they can find themselves with elimination, we talked about the siphon. First shot's going to be fired. That's on a Tooth on the other side. I think Cringe and Noms, they're just trying to back down to their opponents, give themselves a couple seconds to stabilize their position, get the heals back on up before they assess their situation on this next rotation. They have a very, very far pull. One of the max here in the lobby, but they're not done just yet. They're going right back in. They want this elimination. They want 4 more points too. So he's just trying to stay alive. He's just trying to get out, but shots coming in from the other direction as well. Stuck between a rock and a hard place, some would say.
Gotta be careful, but they do have that upper hand onto this solo. Issue is there's so many more duos in the area, they have to be careful. They know this though. as they quickly decide, you know what, maybe it might just be more worth it to start rotating. Flowberry Fizz gonna come through. They have a very long rotate. And it begins.
Gotta be able to be careful. Pick and choose these moments as Crims just gets beamed by Toos, who immediately falls down, finished off the elimination, but he goes down to Zohan somehow, probably peeking to the back of zone, landing that last shot before he goes down, gets credit for that one, which puts a lot of pressure on Noms, because now he's a solo, 24 below the damage threshold, and a max pull on top of that.
Yeah, all these duos that are already based up in zone are going to be looking back at him, so he has to choose his entrance wisely, and it might just be Zohan. Just gonna take a bit of shots onto him, but getting closer and closer to the edge. He should be able to get this done, to be fair.
Yeah, I want to say, especially with so many other teams trying to rotate their way in, getting damage isn't necessarily going to be the hardest thing. It's surviving a situation like this when you become the focus of the lobby. Luckily for him, overbuilding only takes a second. And a lot of that focus instantly stops, especially since there's a whole nother duo trying to rotate, and they're positioned a little bit higher up, which gives teams a better line of sight. And that's why Vortex or Scroll, not even on the same team, but they target out that player towards the outside and take him down.
Advantage coming through. Only thing left now is that Flowberry Fizz. Far pull once again. Zones are definitely not on Noms' side for this 6th game of the day. But a nice little elim getting picked up with that Thunderburst SMG.
I don't even know how he saw that guy just kind of chilling there for a moment. City and Cammy having the same struggle as some of the other players here, down below the threshold. He was able to at least get one. You saw him instantly bounce up the threshold, and he finds another opportunity at elimination, and even more damage thanks to that water bending ability. Something that I feel like a lot of people are using, but not the way Cammy's using it.
Look, we were talking about it. Thomas HD Queasy, is this going to be the big match that we've been waiting for? Meanwhile, though, Noms has been taking shots from the back as they're rotating in. He's done a great job so far with these max pulls. If he can make it in here with still a bit of materials, then I could see a clutch come through.
You know, so many players and teams are going to be behind him. He's running out a lot of resources, but you can see him trying to think a couple steps ahead, create some elevation for himself. It's going to be a sacrifice of those materials, but something that he feels is going to be a necessity as Thomas Queasy still trying to move through almost unscathed towards the side, and they've been rewarded for it. They get the...
Yo la team, aujourd'hui je fais du tri en vendant mes affaires sur Vinted. Vous décidez. Je vends cette veste ou ce cardigan.
Gonna be the easy.
Yo la team, aujourd'hui je fais du tri en vendant mes affaires sur Vinted.
Comme de par hasard au pire moment.
Je vends cette veste ou ce cardigan. Ok, Chad.
En plein late, ils abusent.
Sûr. Allez, ça part. Alors toi aussi, gagne de l'argent en vendant tes vêtements. Mais pas que. Télécharge Vinted.
And they're going to be looking to hold it.
About time. They're the second most dominant height team throughout the qualifiers. They just need to solidify and execute on that blueprint. It's Thomas. Queasy gets separated, both of them, just a sliver of HP, but Queasy's the one that's going to get knocked. Thomas, he has a moment here, a couple seconds to try to reassess the situation, pop the med kit, get him as healthy as possible, because he knows without builds it's not going to be easy, as Vanyak finds another 4 points with that elimination. But now he gets targeted out into the distance. Wings of Icarus quickly moving, grooving, finding his way to success here in the game, but just a little bit too high. But that's not going to be too much of a worry until Chicho spots him out and sends it right back out of the lobby.
Thomas continuing as a solo now. Has to be careful as he's dropped his toes into the water. Zone pulls back once again. Just one build to work with. He's going to have to get right back up this ridge. He just dropped down.
Even though he's by himself, this is the big game we were looking at from Thomas and Queasy, especially with both Swizzy and Vanyak down and out of the game. Majority of those placement points are right here, right now, into this top 10 position, which Thomas can try and scrounge up for him and Queasy as they end the day. And he's doing a great job of going through almost unnoticed. The patience, the discipline to not fire that shot and give away his position as well.
Continuing to make it on in. 16 seconds left till zone fully closes. The clock's ticking. Be careful though. Does he know? A full duo on his left. He's going to be forced to break the cone here. so far, he's still up and going.
That's Kerwan's duo down below. Thomas finding out another answer. Gets a good flank on the Tripram. Great shots could be landed, but not enough. He cannot continue to get aggressive and solidify this fight just yet. There are too many teams right below him, including his duo Fordoxy.
Literally one edit away from being dropped, but Kirwa is going to be the one to clean him up. Chicho, Trulex, strong duo, still looking healthy.
Trying to make up for lost time. Didn't matter if another team went in, tried to contest them. 5 eliminations so far for Chicho. Ready to add even more to that total battle for the high ground. Cammy, Seti, they're ready to challenge Yanis and Flixie, but everything comes crumbling down. Cammy gets lost. Seti gets taken down. Yanis and Flixie have now solidified the high ground for themselves.
Continuing to hold it strong. His Merstash is going to be the next one to go down. Moppy now left alone with Kiro in the dirt. They have the low ground secured, but they're out of materials.
Gonna be a big moment for them if they can really rise to the top. Tripram still alive as well. Fast Roki dropping down simultaneously. He's gonna take down Tripram before going down himself to Kiro. But luckily Fast Roki still has his duo left alive, trying to get the points. Chicho, Trulex challenge high ground for a second, but bite off more than they can chew. They get sent down low to the low ground and separated as Chicho falls.
Trulex left alone, has a banana, has a medkit. Gonna play the heal off here. Clock's ticking, but he's securing placements.
And this is something he's no stranger of. He was able to pick up those 38 points as a solo in the semifinals to give him a qualifying opportunity just to make it this far, and he's staggering himself back. Hopefully, some of these duos go down, giving him free placement points or position on the flank to try to disrupt, take somebody out, and snatch together an opportunity to steal the game.
Once again, Clover getting put to good use here, continuing his rotations, but the remainders are just duos, incredibly healthy. Trulex is going to need to make something happen on low. Moppy now has lost his duo partner. Flixie gets the knock. Trulex with the counter attack though. Yanis now left alone, but he takes out Trulex.
It's almost looking like a solo FNCS to end the game. A lot of the players' duos are down and out. Yanis starting to heal off. He's trying to go deep in the zone. Nappy knows he's trying to stop it, but he gets taken out. Cancels the medkit though. He did his job. It's Yanis with a second medkit in his inventory with ease. Steals the game on back and rises to the top with a big win for him and Flixie.
Basically every single moving zone, they held strong. They had it contested by Cammy and Seti, but it was no problem for them, closing it out with a great way to finish day one.
Yeah, you don't go through the qualifiers and be known as the second most dominant team on high ground, and you now have gotten that big win out of the way, and they've done it yet again. These opportunities, taking down Kiro, and even going to the backside of the zone. Yanis playing that one perfect, knowing it's all or nothing. It's this or lose, even though the first medkit gets canceled out. He has one more left in his back pocket for a big VR.
I got scared there for a second when Moppy canceled the med kit, but it was no issue. Another one in the inventory was more than enough to close it out. And now with that victory, Royale secured on day one of the UFNCS Grand Finals, they're going to be going into day two feeling quite happy.
But there's a bunch of players who have won some games throughout the day and teams that went down early on that leaderboard. Let's throw it on the analyst desk to break down all the action for day one.
Thank you, boys. Can't wait to have you back here tomorrow for the final 6 games of the Grand Finals. And you know what? I'd almost forgotten that Janice and Flixie were in this lobby because they were in 40th place as we head into game number 6. I don't really think there's an established duo who needed a victory royale more, Levin.
Yeah, I mean, it's been mostly a day to forget. They definitely won't forget the last game though, because it managed to get the job done. I think we've seen a couple of games now where they've been really sort of just struggling with Surge out of Reckless, right? We saw them in a couple of fights, you know, over bunkers and whatnot against Pink and Pico at times throughout the games. Regardless of the pains from today, it's a nice way to end out the day in terms of being able to boost morale going into tomorrow, Minnie.
Yeah, these are two fantastic players. I mean, they hadn't broken at all into that top 20 just looking now. Their best game before that was 23rd. So they really just struggled, as you mentioned, with that surge, getting into this late game. And of course, it's the first time we're getting to see them in the late game today. And it just shows exactly what they can do. They can win on high. Of course, the teams around them there at the end were teams that were a little bit low down the leaderboard. So they didn't quite have that same prowess maybe that some of the top teams might have on high. But it's nice to see them winning on high. It's nice to see them ending the day in style. Hopefully they can continue that momentum into tomorrow.
Yeah, it shows that experience that these two players have, right? If they can get to that end game, they can definitely secure a victory royale. Setting Cammy, however, might not be securing loads of victory royales at the moment, but they are securing end game, even if Cammy's having to do it as a solo mini-miner.
Yeah, Cammy's been really impressing me today. I think this is one of the best performances I've personally seen from an individual in this duo, because it just seems like he's doing so much damage throughout the entire games. We saw them there below on Surge twice, no problem. Cammy's got you covered with an elimination. Cammy x Waterbending could be the best duo in the world. I don't know what's going on with this, because he just knows how to use that. We saw them use it in the qualifiers and of course in the semi-finals. They seem to have their strategies on lock, and although it hasn't been the perfect day for them, I'm sure they'd be openly admit that it wasn't quite the day that they would have hoped it would have been in terms of getting victory royales and getting some high elimination games, but they've been very solid. I think there's only one game outside of the top 10 today.
Yeah, the game plan's been on point. Surge, we've seen some of the ideas they've been cooking up in terms of just playing in that storm deep and, you know, using the pads that they have around them with the flow berries to get some distance. All in all, very solid stuff. In the end games, I think they can clean them up a bit, right? There's things to work on there. Obviously, we saw in that last game, the sort of high take didn't go quite as planned, but ultimately, a good day in the office for Setty and Cammy. I think they're only going to get better as the competition evolves, and so they'll be, you know, pretty chuffed, I mean, with where they're at and where they can get to.
It's been so impressive as well to watch Twizzy and Banyak today. 2 victory royales to their name. So many eliminations. They're not shy in coming forward and, you know, taking things by force, as we like to say on the FNCF. Although I have to say, I enjoyed in that last game seeing when the Icarus wings do not work, Levin, as I think it was Banyak who just got picked out of the sky.
Yes, it was a bit of an unfortunate end of the day, but what a day it has been for these guys. I mean, a lot of people predicted them to come out and win, and I can sort of see the signs of why, right? Brawlers Battleground, you know, very consistent sort of spot, a decent spot, a good spot, I think I should say, actually, to sort of play from. Obviously, the way they use that mythic, you know, we saw in the semi-finals, regardless of zones, they're not really going to struggle to be able to make it to end games. And I think all those things compared to the fact that these two are just crazy players. Like, you know, these two are incredibly talented. They've been using the wings, which I think was probably the biggest, like, sort of tech difference that we saw from this sort of lobby compared to others we've seen from them this season. And everything has just, you know, been perfect so far.
It's going to be really interesting to see the competition heat up tomorrow, because a reminder to everyone watching, this isn't just about getting the Axe of Champions and getting $170,000 if you're the top placing duo. It's also about making it to Dallas and the Global Championships. Tickets available, by the way, 7th, 8th of September, so do make sure you bag those to see the electrifying duos in the flesh, and 5 of them will be qualifying this weekend and joining the likes of Mercedes Malabuka and Queasy and Thomas fighting for the ultimate prize in Fortnite. Mini Miner, how do you feel the top 5 is going to look tomorrow? Is it going to look anything like the top 5 you presented us earlier today?
Probably not, to be honest, but what I did mention last week was that the top 5 or maybe top 3 going into day 1 would be completely switched up going into day